This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group or our YouTube members only area, where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, welcome to 40k Frontiers episode 6, Aussie in the USA. Today with me, we've got all 4 hosts with us today. We've got the wonderful and beautiful Alex Pask.
What's going on?
We got the not so beautiful, but still lovely as always, Mr. Towse.
Hey, I thought I'm not so lovely, but beautiful, Sam.
Either or, you know. And then we have the handsome, the gorgeous, wearing a beautiful Atletico Madrid shirt for all the podcast listeners. Benny Way, how you doing, buddy?
Great, thanks. I've never been called that before in my life, apart from by my mother, so I appreciate that, mate. It's made me feel great today for a Thursday.
Sam just wanted the listeners to understand how beautiful your mother says you are.
Yeah, well, she hasn't said it for a while, to be fair. So
oh, wow. Right. All right, so what are we doing this week?
On today's episode, we've got a bit of an eclectic sort of collection of things to talk about. So, first we'll lead off with Benny Way. So he recently attended a 5-man teams event here in Maitland, New South Wales. So, going to talk to his first actual teams event experience. See how that all is. Then we have a little just generic topic talking about setting generic, realistic event expectations. So, understanding what you should do going into an event and adjusting as the event goes on fundamentally. Then we have a beautiful interview with a wonderful and late and great, as Mr. The Art War boys like to call him, Adam Camilleri. So he's going to talk all about life in the Art War house, what it's like, and what each flavor of ice cream the Art War members are. So a really nice interview with him. And then we have Mr. Pask talking about the Dallas Open and how his thoughts were and how he went with his Death Guard there. So see how he went. And then, and at the end, we might have some listener questions for our lovely patrons. So before we get into going how everyone is around the ground, but if you want to support the show, and you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/bestintabletop, or where you can join a wonderful Discord of like-minded people like ourselves. I mean, we're pretty good, but not to boast or toot our own horn too much. We've got this beautiful Discord full of amazing 40k personalities and people that will help you in all aspects of life, and in particular 40k, because that's what really matters. And then also, if you want to subscribe, also there's a YouTube Premium in the members area. So just click the link down below. Join for $10 US a month. And behind the scenes of the YouTube Premium, we have the bit reps, some quality content there, and then part 2s of exclusive shows, and part 2 of Chasing the Narrative, notably. So look forward to all those beautiful, wonderful content. With that plug out of the way, so we'll go around the ground, starting with Mr. Pask. So what's been happening this past week with you?
All right, so we'll cover, since the last time I was on the show, a couple things. I played a lot of 40k, less than I was expecting. We'll cover that in a second. So I played in an RTT at Stormcore Games in Lubbock, Texas. Went 2-1. That was really cool. My only loss was to Leviathan Nids. For context, at the time, I was playing my now dead, we'll cover that later as well, Vanguard list at Death Guard that was just Terminators and Blight Haulers. So lost to Leviathan Nids. Beat Deathwing because I do more mortal wounds than he does, and then tabled Grey Knights, where I realized that Armor of Contempt -1 damage basically makes them unable to do damage to me, and I can out mortal wound him. So that was like a 97-point victory with Death Guard, which is insane. Then I attended the Dallas Open, had a good time. We'll be covering that more later. For astute listeners of the show, I was supposed to be attending the Seattle Open last weekend. I am moving at the end of the month, as I mentioned a few times, and I had set with my wife certain checklist items that if they happened, everyone drops everything and we just pack. The day I got back from Dallas, one of those items was hit, which basically meant that everything stopped and we started packing. So We are in full. I will pan over a little bit in the absolute mess that is my house for the listeners. Those boxes are going to be full of 40K here in a second for stuff that hasn't been sold. I have bags in the corner as we're packing everything up, and we are getting ready to head out. So it is a absolutely hectic time in the Alex household right now. But did get to play some 40K before it started. All right, and I'll pass this one off to Ben, who I believe is in painting hell right now.
So I've actually completed my painting for the event this weekend, which is one of the most prestigious events in Australia, which I'm fortunate enough to be hosting. So it's going to be fantastic. It's ANZTC. So it's just, if you've listened to the show before, you probably heard me wax lyrical about it. All the states, usually New Zealand are there. They're not there this time. But yes, it's WTC replica tables. So I think I made 180 crates in a day the other week. And that was, I didn't follow the instructions either. I didn't even know till about crate 95 there was instructions. And I just thought, nah, it's too late now. We're doing it. So it's been really busy. There's still a few things I've got to finalize today. As soon as this podcast is over, I'm going to start trying to get as much of that terrain over to the venue as I can. Then I'll carry on doing that tomorrow. So busy couple of days, but really looking forward to the weekend. There's a few people there I haven't met and a few people there I haven't seen for ages. So I'm really looking forward to it. So it's going to be great. What about you, Towse?
So having like a bunch of custodies, I submitted a list for a tournament, and I think it's just over a week right now. That is, I've only got 6 models to paint, but that's over half the list because I've got 3 Caladius and some Dreadnoughts. So I've got some things I've got basing done for them, so I can like put it on the table now, and it's all undercoated. But I'll be busy with that, and I think that's about where we're at. And I talked to Adam, which we'll cover later in the show. That was cool.
Is that a 5-round event you're going to?
Nah, this is the it's another one of Scott's ones, the Oxford Open. So it's just a 1-day thing, 3 rounds. This is a 2-person teams event. So there's we've got so you go with someone else. You each take a 2,000 point list. One team chooses the tables, the other chooses the matchups. It's just a bit of fun. There's going to be like 3 undefeated at least because of how popular they are, but only 1 day. So I think the one after this is going to be a 2-day affair. Because otherwise they're like 50 person RTTs, which is kind of wonky.
Excuse the math a little bit there, hey, with 50-person RTTs, but it sounds awesome. So 2-person teams, and that sounds interesting. So you said one person picks the table, and then like basically each play a 2,000 point game, and then is it the sum of your points wins? Is that how it works?
I don't know the details. I just know I'm going with someone for a laugh. I didn't think too hard.
Yeah, who reads the mission pack and rules pack? That's just for chumps, right? Just rock up and
look. I'm not even confident we've had one of them submitted. They're like, these are pretty casual things. So so we're going along for a laugh. We made sure we got lists in on time and teams. There was a group of 4 of us working it out. We there were 4 of us that were going to go, and we randomized who was going to go with who. And then one of those 4 had to drop anyway, so we had to re-wrangle. But it's fine.
Oh, sounds awesome. I guess for myself, so as Benny Way mentioned, this weekend's ATC, the thing we've been preparing for months and months and months. It's finally come to fruition. It's happening. And of course, sadly, COVID's still a thing. So 2 other members have had COVID scares. So one of them's traveling up late to the event. So we've had to get some replacements and fill-ins. And it's been hectic with that. But that's okay. It is what it is. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a great time. Just finally, after months of work, we can finally get to play some 40K to make men teams events. So speaking of teams events, we'll lead on to Benny Way. So not this past weekend, but the weekend before, as we're recording this, you attended a 5-man team event in the New South Wales Team Champs. Or what is it, Maitland Team Champs? One of the ones from New South Wales. And you want to talk about that? How that all was?
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting to be playing in this. It was only because of drops. Basically, the state I'm from, New South Wales, they're obviously it's all in prep for the big national teams tournament. So the captain, vice captain, and the other great player on the team split up and kind of basically drafted from the 16 who were going to get picked for the 8. And because a few of them had to drop, I got in. So I was running Gene Stealer Cult with the list that I helped curate for New South Wales with their Gene Stealer Cult player. Him and I are pretty much the main Gene Stealer Cult players in the state. So we got together and did that. Yeah, and I took that there, and I ended up getting second. So that was really interesting. So it's a 5-round event, WC layout and rules, and FAQ. So it was really fun. I think first up, I went into. So I was basically a shield roll. Just get as many points as you can. I got thrown under the bus. I think 3 out of 5 games, I would say a definite throw out the bus. You could even argue that maybe round 1 was the same, but it was a pretty comprehensive victory. So, I played Deathwatch Army of Renown first round. I think I got like a 16-4 on that, so I was pretty happy with that. I think I went second, and then he couldn't see anything. He moved into the middle, then I could just latch on then and play around him. And then Deathwatch armies are still elite, right? So you can still just hop in corners with the Acolyte squads. So it was good.
So Ben,
Yep, sorry.
important question. How many aberrants were you running?
0
Very
aberrants in this one, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So Armor of Contempt, as funny as it was, that list was, I always said was going to be dead after that weekend. Anyway, when I last took it to the GT, with Armor of Contempt, they're even worse than they were before, which wasn't great. Let's just be honest. So they're absolutely useless now. So I took it's on BCP. I won't bore you with telling you what the list was. The Twisted Helix had To the Last with the Ridge Runners and 2 Patriarchs, and 29 pure strains, few drills, of course, because you got to, a few hand flamers, barely any guns, but it was pretty happy with the list. Great fun. And then second, we played the winning team in this, and this was the only round we lost. I usually have pretty good, usually pride myself on my broad faction knowledge. Made the biggest error in the secondary stage. Didn't realize that. I can't believe I didn't realize this, because it's so embarrassing, but I've got to tell you the story. Basically realized that Scarab Occults have OBSEC. Silly. I can't believe it. So I took Stranglehold against him, so that was a first mistake. And then I won't go into the details of it, but had an absolutely whiff of a turn where I don't usually put myself in the position to fail some dice rolls, but I failed 3 in a row. It was like a fullback and charge psychic power didn't go off, even with the familiar for the reroll. I failed my 3d6, pick the 2 highest for my drill squad, 8-inch charge twice with a CP. Got a 7 on both. And then the real key one was the Pure Strains needed a 6-inch charge to get into the Cultists on the back objective, which would have made him have to turn around his resources, which would have been a huge coup, because I would have hidden behind a ruin and he would have had to have literally got right round me to do it. Anything about it? Yeah, failed that on a 5. So, and then the game just fell apart there. So I think it worked out as 18-2 at the end to him. It was a pretty bad matchup for me anyway. Scarab Occult Terminators. It could be worse, but it's still not a great one. Sam, you said you had some thoughts about the Scarab Occult.
Yeah, look, just you talking about there, the 8-inch charges re-rolling and the life of a GSC player, right? Ben, like you when you make your charges, when things go according to plan, it's fantastic. Life is good. And look, obviously you got to mitigate those things, but man, when you fail those charges and those things just don't go your way, it is rough. It is rough.
Yeah, it sure was. And funnily enough, the coach from Victoria was standing next to me when that was happening, and he's just gone, I've never seen a turn like that before in my life. Like, because I never usually fail, never usually put myself in the position to do that. But anyway, we lost that round, but not by too much, but we lost it. And then I played, I got thrown into Sisters on stream, and played a friend of mine, Josh McMillan. He's one of the probably top 10 players in Australia, and one of the best Sisters player, arguably probably the best Sisters player in Australia. And I play Sisters as well, so I kind of know how it works. I went first in that matchup, which wasn't ideal. He had been marked down as a green, and I kept him to a 10-10 on stream. So that was really good. That actually won us the round, me keeping to a 10. 10-10, so that was good. And then I played Craftworld Elder, which was a bit of a skew one, had a few Crimson Hunters in there, which was really hard as a Gene Stealer cult player to deal with. So he was taking them as to the last. But I managed to squeeze a 10-10 out of that after going first as well. So that was another one which helped us get through that round. And then in the final round, I actually got left to be put up last. Actually, I was like the dregs, and I got put up against Custodes. And I think I like 19-1'd him on that one. I think, yeah, that was just brutal. The drills, I've never seen a drill spike like I had. I think I rolled 5 6s in that drill spike, and so that was 10 mortal wounds onto the bike squad. So once the 2 bike squads were done, I had the run of the board, and it was kind of a bit over then. So, but yeah, it was a great day. It was my first teams event. I was lucky enough to be on a great team. I loved the role of a shield role, because they were just like, what do you want to go into? I was like, you just put me into whatever you want. Just make sure all the rest of the guys are fine, and just put me into whatever you want. I'll get points. And I did that twice for them, and it was really good. I was really happy. It is definitely the best way to play 40k. It is just such a wholesome experience. I loved it. So, yeah.
Did you, Ben, have any like funny team stories? Because as Fight Club was covering, that's like team tournaments always the best for that, for there to be funny stories outside of the event.
Oh,
Anything
the funny
stood out?
When we were playing Vic, right, as a Victorian captain over there, and he was playing. We have a Necron player on our team, and he's a very good Necron player. Like, pulls out results that he probably shouldn't pull out as a Necron player, and he was playing the Hail of Doom.
Three-game move optic?
Yeah,
Oh.
No, he was. That's what he was playing, but he played against the Craft Worlds, the Shuriken spam one, and he 15-5'd him. And this guy's a very good player that he 15-5'd, and I think there was a couple of dice rolls that didn't go the Eldar player's way, but I think he just absolutely 15-5'd him. Like, everyone was a bit like, well, even I was playing the Thousand Suns player, and he was like, it's so good that he's getting beaten. And I said, why? And he said, it's so nice to see my captain getting knocked down a peg. I was like, that's so funny. But so it was hilarious. But no, it was full of funny moments, but I could probably go on for it forever. So I'd take up a whole podcast just doing it. So.
Yeah, fantastic. You just talked about the Benny way you loved the shield roll. What was it about the shield roll you loved?
Honestly, I love being an underdog. I do enjoy being an underdog. But also, like, I love that kind of like, this is your task, is just to make his life hard. And I feel like Gene Stealer Cult just lean into that pretty well. They're not that, I don't think like they're in, when you take it to a top level in an 8-man teams, that a Gene Stealer Cult is a great codex for teams at all. Just because it kind of, especially with, the future with knights and stuff, it's just going to slip right off. But it definitely has play in denying it. And I feel like you're doing your part for your team, but in such a obscure way, which is, after playing so much singles 40k, feels so refreshing. And I think that's what I loved so much about it. It was such a different way to think about the game. So yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's also worthwhile mentioning there, in the shield roll, it's sort of funny, like the burden's not on your shoulders at all. Like, being a shield roll, if you get a couple of points, you're the savior for your team. Like, you're expected to get absolutely stomped and like lose massive. So if you can claw some points back, like, you're a savior. And that's, I guess, I don't know, for some people, that's a nice, I guess, relief to not have to worry if you don't get points or not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hask, did you have anything to add?
No, nothing to add there. There was a couple times you mentioned in there, I was like, and then I failed a 6-inch rerollable charge. I'm like, oh, don't worry, you'll hear about that later. Let me tell you,
such is the way.
I am very familiar with the failable reroll 6-inch charge. Had a couple of those. But no, it's also cool. I think that'll roll really well into our next topic with taking GSC to that kind of event, which I've seen GSC decried as arguably one of the worst 9th edition books. I think they're up there with Orcs in the book not being that great. Orcs, modern Orcs, not release Orcs. I guess that's important to say.
I think the thing with Gene Stealer Cult is actually a really good book. It's just when it came out, which was just like in the S tier, in this like third wave S tier after S tier codex, because it's definitely got some really mad play in it. It's got some really cool tricks. I've played Gene Stealer Cult for quite a lot of my time playing 40k, so I can fit into the groove of it, and I feel I can get some pretty good results out of it. But it's not a beginner's army. Hey, it could be any further away from a beginner's army. I think like I couldn't not recommend it enough to people who are just starting out and weren't used to playing that style of army.
Well, and that's a good point, right? Like it dropped. GSC dropped at the same time as the Custodes book, the thing that needed to get addressed, and then got to be followed immediately by Tau, Eldar, and Knights. So like it got possibly the worst run it could have afterwards, because you're right. If it came out, let's say GSC comes out after Sisters, right? Like that's a wildly different meta, and that could be a lot of fun. But no, it dropped into big boys and like super efficient everything, and it doesn't want to play that game. It wants to play that kind of like scrappy, cagey, like run in from around the corner, jump on something and score points that way. And you're right, it's not a beginner army. It's hard to play. I personally would not pick it up because I know I'd get frustrated with it very easily. But it's cool that you were able to take something like that to an event and have a great time with that kind of book, which the internet tells you, and I'm a talking head on the internet, so I think I can say this now, where the internet tells you that it's a bad book and you shouldn't take it. Like, okay, well, I still had fun, so it's fine.
Yeah, so it suits my. I'm a very defensive player, not necessarily passive, but I'm very defensive, and it suits my play style really well. I love the late game. It's probably my strongest part of my 40k game is in the late game. If it's head very close, I play pretty well in the late game. And I think that's why I think I almost have molded my play style to playing Genestealer cults and Tyranids over the years. Like especially Genestealer cult. I've played way more Genestealer cult and Tyranids. So I think that like it doesn't take me long to get back in the groove. So I think that there's a thing with armies, right? If it doesn't naturally fit your play style, you're probably just not going to play. Play style is a weird word, isn't it? If it doesn't fit how you play the 40k or how you want to play 40k or how you get results, then sometimes those armies just don't work for certain people, right? So
I'm just thinking, like, man, is it rough to have a Death Guard player calling your book bad?
Hey, that's the problem is I'm not saying that my book is any better. I'll cover that in Dallas of how wrong I have been over the last shows on the state of Death Guard. Because I am, I feel like I have some experience now to say exactly what some of the issues with that book are. It's speed. There are problems. We'll discuss that in a little bit.
But you took like fart carts and a Demon Prince. Isn't that fast, Alex?
I didn't take the Demon Prince. I didn't take the Demon Prince. That's part of the problem.
Anyway, so moving on. So thanks for the recap, Ben. Looks like you had a great time, and obviously looking forward to catching up with you this weekend for ATC. Pask, so you wanted to talk about sort of setting realistic event expectations. So do you want to lead off into that topic?
Yeah, sure. So we'll use the GSC, been playing GSC as an example, where this is something I was told early in my competitive 40k career, and I think it's important to understand, is that exactly one person wins a GT. And in the modern landscape, at least in the United States, you can look at BCP and kind of narrow that down to 10 people, realistically. If it's one of the big like majors, you know who's going to be there, you know who gets the reps. Yeah, there's the underdog stories every once in a while. But if you look at a lot of the major events that have occurred over the last few months, really since January, if it's a big name guy there, they probably won it or at least scored very well. And just understanding like, hey, when you go into events, setting the goal to win the event with Death Guard, not that I set that goal, I set a more modest one, but that's not realistic, right? Like I understand that where I'm at now in the faction that I'm playing, I'm not going to win an event. And I've accepted that and I moved on. So instead you set goals like, personally, my goal for Dallas was 5-3. I wanted to go positive with my Death Guard list. And that I felt at the time, naively, that was a realistic goal, where it's like, I'll throw this out there as well. A friend of mine, a friend of the show, a friend of the network, Peter Venner, took a absolutely hilarious guard list to Seattle Open, including a Shadow Sword and what have been affectionately named Shovel Demons, which are, I believe, and I don't have his list in front of me, and I'm going to make really good content and not look it up and just say what I think it was. It was the I think Ruststalkers, Sakaran Ruststalkers, but they were deathcore models with the Sakaran arms and legs, and the swords were replaced with shovels. And he went and he was like, you know what, I'm just having a good time. I'm going to paint for paint judging, and he did very well there. And he can slap me in person when he sees me in a couple weeks, but I believe his goal was 4-4, and he hit that. He was like, all right, well, I made it even, and I brought the models I wanted to play with. And that's you go in with that expectation of, I'm not going to win the event, but here's my little sub goal that I'm going to try and accomplish playing in a GT like that. So I think that's where I want to go with that. And I wanted to get everyone else's thoughts of going into events of like, hey, how do you set those realistic goals of maybe not planning on winning the whole thing? So where do you like to put yourself? I know personally, I go into every event telling myself I want to go positive. That I want more wins than losses is always the goal. And that has with some mixed results in there. I've had a couple events that I haven't met that, and I've been pretty disappointed in myself with that. But then I have to understand that I'm playing Death Guard, and I'm playing with the training weight still on, as I've been told a couple times. It's like, you would do much better if you played a better book. I'm like, yeah, but I don't. So this is the expectation I'm going in with.
I guess one thing is sometimes going back, teams events can be good for that at times, because if you've got like a role where you don't need to do as well, that's great. And often it can be a bit more fun to go in open-minded with some mates and be like, we'll make sure we have fun and do things otherwise. The Hell Games that we talked about last show, that was really fun for me because I went in borrowing a different faction and I had no goals of like how well to do. I just wanted to have a laugh. So potentially, if you can like borrow hammer something else that seems fun for an event or something, and just have the goal of like, I want to have fun, try something new, and not really care how it goes. Like some of the higher, I ended up doing all right with that event anyway. But some of the higher stakes games, I wasn't as worried about them. I would still mess around because my goal was not actually to try and win. It was just to have fun with something new. That can help, but if you just borrow something different that seems fun to try for an event and not commit. Right, someone's taken. Help.
Yeah, I'm in. So my thing is making sure it's clear what the definition of expectations is, right? So this is, I know it's a weird way to start it off, but I feel like some people think, even though they say personal expectations, they're still taking too much what people expect from their faction. So even if you're playing like a really good faction, like you're a Tyranid player and you've been Tyranid player for a year and a half, right? And all these bandwagoners around you, they're all maybe better players than you, and that's what they do in the game. They jump around and stuff like that. Making sure that your personal expectations are literally organically from you about what you want to achieve, not like my personal expectations are like, well, I play Nid, so I should at least be going like 4-4 or like 3-3 or something like that. I just have to because of my book. It's not about them. It's really is just about you, and it's important to make sure the end result is you're happy with how you went, right? So if you take too much outside influence, then it will affect actually what genuinely how pure your goals are. Like I always think that sometimes your goals don't always have to be what that number is. What did you end up with? 3-3 or 5-3 or whatever it is, like it doesn't have to end up like that. Some of it can be, I want to make sure that when my opponent and I finish playing, we shake hands, and I've made a friend and I can move on with that. Or your goal can be like, I really want to make sure my deployment is clean every single turn, and I want to play really well with intent. Like expectations of going into an event don't just have to be revolving around what your end result is or what people think you should be ending up with, or my mates think I should be doing really well at that, but making sure that they're actually personal expectations, like what you're happy with. Some people like for example, when I went to the GT at Clash that we covered, a few weeks ago, that was literally my expectation there was low. And I actually custom made, I took 29 aberrants, right? So my expectation was low, and I probably overperformed with 29 aberrants, which was great. But I think the reason I overperformed was literally because I had the only expectation I had was to enjoy myself. It was a bit of a celebration for me for some personal stuff that's going on. And I made sure that it was more of a celebration of me being let out into the wild a little bit, a bit more. And I think that kind of radiated through my gameplay, and I actually had a really good time with it, And that was I exceeded my expectations on the table, but I met my expectations in the way that I approached that event. So
Yeah. Also, something quickly that you made me think of is, I don't know if it's always a thing, but like if your event afterwards shows like best sports scores, you could try going with a goal of something of, I want to get a best opponent vote from one of my opponents, something like that. That can be like, even if you're not doing the best or no, independent of wins and losses, right? If you go, oh, I want to be someone's favorite opponent for the weekend, that can be a great goal. And could be pretty good. Like one time a buddy and I traveled for an event. We got first and second, which was pretty cool. But he was actually more stoked that he got 3 favorite opponent votes coming in second. Which I thought was that was really awesome. That was great as well. Something like that can be, even if you do well, something unrelated can be your favorite thing from an event.
No, that's fantastic, and it's good to adjust your goals along the way and be, I guess, happy with how things go. So I don't think it's worthwhile also mentioning if things aren't going your way. So for example, Benny talked there about how his GSC game with T sounds like maybe he felt pretty good about that. Dice happens, stuff happens, things don't go your way. It could be more serious like that. You fail some 3-inch charges or et cetera, et cetera. I think it's also worthwhile mentioning you got to monitor and adjust your goals as things head along. So for example, Oz Masters was a couple of weekends ago. I expected to go probably better than I did. And actually, it was sort of halfway through the event, I realized it's okay. What's happened has happened, but it's okay to adjust my goals. And I really wanted to sort of just connect with the people that are there and really enjoy my time there instead of say, I want to do this sort of result. And I think heading into ATC, obviously, look, lately, 2 of our players are potentially out with COVID. And so our expectations have changed, and that's okay. And it's okay to adjust your goals and mindset as things happen. And it's okay. It's war dollars at the end of the day. It's not life or death. It's good to have goals, and if you fail, it's okay. It's all good. I mean, you're not going to succeed all the time. Every single hit you make or every strike you make, you're not going to be 100% all the time. So it's okay to fail. Learn from them. See how you can improve, and go forward. And yeah, so I think that was a really good topic, and thanks for the suggestion, Mr. Pask. So leading on to other people who have wise and amazing goals, we've got the late and great Adam Camilleri. So Benny Way and Mr. Towse interviewed him about his life in the USA, how things were, and what's life in the Art of Warhouse fundamentally. So enjoy.
All right, so we're live with the interview. So I'm here with Ben Way and Adam Camilleri, or Adam Commentary, or however else you want to say his name. How's it going, dude?
Very well. My absolute pleasure to be here, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So you've just been wandering around the Northern Hemisphere for a little while, haven't you?
Yeah, stuff was getting a bit dull. There's some COVID stuff. Melbourne was locked down for 800 days, it felt like. And so
yeah.
I got this little window. I was out of there.
Yeah. So obviously, if any of the listeners have probably been listening to any sort of podcast in the last probably 3 years, they would have heard Adam's voice or some sort of live stream. So I don't think, and it was a well-known fact that you were over with the boys from Art of War and stuff like that, and also going over there for personal reasons, to give something a crack and see a fresh view, and obviously just get out of Australia because we've been kind of locked down for a while. So so we're just here to touch on about how the differences you found out about America and Australia, if you like. We've got so many questions from people in the Discord, but also loads of personal questions. We had to stop at some point when we were writing them down. But yeah, so Alex, so Towse, one of the ones we wanted to talk about was obviously the Art of War house and stuff like that, and kind of. So when did you actually get back into Australia? So why don't we set the scene
So I got
bit,
back. I think it'll be a month on this Wednesday.
Okay.
Either that or it'll be 4 weeks or 5 weeks this Wednesday. So I kind of quietly crept back into the country because I wasn't actually sure if I was going to be bouncing out again immediately, or if I was going to be here for a bit, or if I'm here forever. I still don't quite know. So I kind of came back discreetly because I wanted to surprise people, like, hey, I'm back, or I wanted to like quietly come in, do some personal stuff, and then head back over. Turns out that wasn't the case. Turns out I'm going to be here at a minimum until August, and then we kind of see what I'm able to do then. But yeah, that was it.
So just quickly, since this will be coming out a bit later,
Hmm?
Wednesday is like, I think, yesterday in terms of when this will be released, or maybe the day this releases.
So
day it released,
Wednesday,
Adam will be here.
yeah, Wednesday the 11th will be like 4 or 5 weeks since I've been back.
Mm-hmm.
Future
So
past
cool.
time just absolutely screws with my brain when I try and work that out.
Look,
Yeah.
at least we're all in the same day for once. Like with
Yeah,
this interview.
that is true. We've never
Adam
done
not
that.
being in the US.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like living in the past and the future, kind of jet lagged. The lifestyle was pretty rough. I don't know. Jet lag never seemed to be a thing, and then I hit like mid 30s, and now it's horrific. So rough.
There you go.
Did you
That's hilarious.
you had to move to the US so that you could actually like live up to Blake Law's late and great Adam Camilleri name, because you're actually late compared to the rest of Australia.
Hey, that's true. That actually is really
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
It works,
He actually,
yeah.
it's so funny that he still says that because he said that once by accident, just like off the cuff, and now I'm dead to all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
According to Blake Law. Although,
That's
but
hilarious.
by the sounds of the moniker, at least I had a good life.
Yep.
That's true. So obviously you've been working with Art of War for years now. Like I reckon ever since but you actually you basically just gate crashed the party over there, didn't you? So obviously we were going to ask you questions about this, and there's a lot of kind of things that everyone want to know, but like kind of what were your expectations going over there? Did you have obviously how they work behind the scenes a bit more because you're involved in that kind of thing, but kind of what were your expectations when you were on the Uber or whatever, when you were kind of on your way over?
So I've lived in those kind of so we talk about like the trap house, the full-time 40k boys living under one roof. Like it's either going to be a beautiful crescendo or an absolute tragedy. Like it's just going to be so I've lived in those kind of environments before. I was a pretty competitive Dota player for a little bit. I lived in I ran away from home when I was like 17, 18 and lived in like a slum with a bunch of other Dota players where we ate horribly, stayed up all night, did drugs and all the other horrible things. And so I expected like that, but like a little bit more mature with some nerdiness on top. And I was actually impressed. I was actually really quite impressed. Like Richard and John are very tidy dudes. Like they take care of their stuff. The house in general is not that clean. If that was one of the questions, but it's way better than what I was actually expecting worse, because I was like, limit your expectations, Adam. Expect very little. That way, if they're living in a hovel, it's okay.
Is that like pile of shame everywhere clean, or like a little bit of just it's a flat, or no? What's the American term for? Is it, I guess, trap house, right?
Yeah.
Of just blokes.
It was. It's a very manly man. Well, as manly as nerds get. But like you can tell it's 4 dudes living in a house. With like 1 to 2 dogs maybe if Mark's over. But like so you got like a walk-in robe. So there's a walk-in robe behind the studio room. It's supposed to be like an ensuite, and it is just Warhammer. It is just shelves and shelves and shelves and buckets and buckets and buckets of Warhammer. That's it, floor to ceiling. And then there's a linen closet, like a 2-door open linen closet that is just sprue. That's just all sprue, just stuff, mostly unbuilt stuff that they haven't got around to, and it's pretty cool. Like a new army comes out, this is good now. They walk over to the shelf, they get everything down, and it's all stuff that like they've like either won in from events, or they've traded in through one of their sponsors or whatever. It's pretty hilarious. Like John, me and John were talking about land speeder storms. Like, are land speeder storms good now? They just went down to 150 points. He's like, I don't know. He walked over to the shelf, pulls out 3 like brand new and sprue land speeder storms. Like, have a look. Do you want to build them? I'm like, yeah, I'm bored. I'll build them. Build them. And there we go. We've just been playing games with them.
Hey, wait, land speeder storms, or like the new Tempest storm speeders?
Storm speeders.
Because land speeder storms have been like the staple of, all right, go sit in the middle and score most of the moments, right?
G-Dub just had. Do you guys remember South Park? when they had the Simpsons episode of Family Guy episode of South Park, where they had the manatees that make the jokes. Like they try and figure out what a Family Guy joke is. A manatee picks a ball out of a thing. Another one picks a ball out. That's G-Dub's naming convention. They know every yeah.
It
like,
is like
regard
that too,
super
isn't it?
heavy. Regard super heavies. The like list of like prefix suffix like bane, hammer, sword, shadow. Like what? Yeah.
They have a column of weather events. They have a column of utility items
like weapons,
hammers,
right?
screwdrivers,
Yeah.
A weapon one, and then like a foe bane enemy nemesis one, and then they just throw a dart, and then whichever one,
yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
You get the idea.
If they do Space Marines, they just use the capital I as their inspiration. And
They
just
do.
follow the rest of it.
Yeah,
off from that.
like intercessor versus inceptor versus interceptor versus.
Yeah.
I feel like there's another one as well.
It's
there's loads of them.
It's in 30k. It's Interemptor. It's like a freaking it's Horus Heresy 30k Dark Angels
Oh
Hellblaster.
my word!
It's
Right.
stupid.
Man, so we're
So
so off topic already.
Yeah, that it's gonna happen. You're gonna happen. So
Oh yeah.
So did you? So obviously, you kind of like immerse yourself into that. Like I remember watching, because I'm part of the War Room. I remember watching videos
nice.
and hearing your voice yelling at the background with super chats and stuff like that. And you really kind of threw yourself in there. Like obviously, they are very busy people, and they're doing a lot of stuff all the time. Kind of, what were you doing while you were there? Were you like, obviously you were still churning out content even when you were doing your travels, but what were you helping them out with and stuff like that? What did you find really interesting about life there in the house?
So I just kind of rocked up. I'm just like, I'm just gonna try and do whatever I can to make myself indispensable, like try and make just daily life in that house like easier, in addition to doing everything I was already doing. Like to me, like 40k is already a part-time job for me. Even when I'm here, I do 3 podcasts a week and all that stuff, and I maintained all that when I was over there, in addition to doing and assisting on like is usually a minimum of like 2 streams a week, especially with the I was doing 1 a day for like a couple of weeks in the lead up to LVO when I was doing the Road to LVO with Chester, and then I was the 3rd man on every game. I just put my hand up, I'll do that. Very happy to communicate with chat. Pretty good at it now as well, with doing it on like so many live streams. So yeah, I just like, hey, these are the things I can do. You guys use me as much or as little as you want. I'm just going to be here, like, yeah. And then they just like after a while they're like, hey, Adam's good at this stuff. Here, do this, and this. And yeah, I'm sure. Like I had a bunch of projects I was going to start. So timeline wise, I came back into the States from a month in Mexico, which was amazing, by the way. Anybody who can spend some time in Mexico, do it. It's freaking phenomenal. And then I went to Adepticon, and then I flew back to Tallahassee. And I thought I was going to be in Tallahassee again for another 3 months. And I had a bunch of projects I was going to be taking over and starting in those 3 months. And unfortunately, I've had to drop just about all of them. But yeah, we had a bunch of exciting stuff we were going to launch. There was a whole new show, a whole new podcast. Still might do, still might not. We'll see. Having a day job kind of makes 4 podcasts a week a bit, But yeah.
Were you actually staying like living in the trap house, or were you nearby, like in a hotel or accommodation or something?
I was nearby. Yeah, I'm a bit older than those boys. I mean, so I'm of the same age as like a couple of them, but like me and Jack and Nick, but the idea of me living with 3 other dudes or 4 other dudes, and they're all like, I mean, Siegs and John, and they're all like 10 years younger than me. I'm like, nah. I'm like, well, I can afford to have my own place, even if it's just like a 1-bedroom nothing. I will have my own place, and so I stayed nearby.
Yeah, because John like supposedly doesn't sleep or something, right? And just all the time studying or assembling or
Yeah. John's actually like, if you talk about the actual machine of the Art of War like production, it's John. John just goes. Richard is like the Matrix.
He's like the AI or something,
Yeah,
and then he just like sets John on the task, and then he
Yeah, Richard is like the overseer. He's like the what was
is
the
Richard
Matrix?
Skynet, John's the Terminator.
That's a great analogy. Or I was gonna say Richard is like, what was the colonel in number 2? The architect in the Matrix is Richard. He like knows the worst part of the Matrix, the architect crap. He looks like Colonel Sanders from KFC. that's like Richard. He knows everything that's going on all the time, but he never kind of has a lot to do with everything. Like he's not kind of hands on. It's pretty good.
So you mentioned, so you went in there and you started playing 40k with these guys, and I remember watching one of your games, and then you started going to a couple of events.
Yep.
What were your expectations of like? I know this is going to be a bit of a silly question, but I think I'm talking like really, it's a bit of a personal question from your sense. What were your expectations of how you were going to measure? Because I know you don't play as much as you used to, and you were, you're a former WTC player, for Australia. You've won events, you've done very well, probably before I was playing, over here. But how did you feel you were going to measure up going over there compared to those guys? Surely it must have run through your head like every day, right? Like, am I going to be an embarrassment, or am I going to be like,
Well, so I was prepared to go over there and get my ass kicked. Like,
sure,
I was very ready for it. I mean, these guys are actually so. There are a lot of different types of really good 40k players. There are the kind of mercurial, kind of intangibly amazing players like Eric Lathuris, Sean Nate, and these guys who are just think and operate on a different level. I kind of put Richard Siegler in that as well. Like they see the game so differently to you. You can't really pinpoint why they're incredible, but they just are, and they do it in so many unique ways. They show their prowess. And then you got guys who are like engine room, churn games, stay at their peak, just churn. And that's like your John Lennon and your Jack Harpster. They play the best armies in the game at the top level. And as long as you're doing that and you stay sharp, like so freaking sharp, you're just going to be an absolute behemoth like they are. And so I was ready to go in and get my ass kicked, and I did, and I didn't. I was actually surprised by how few times I didn't get my ass kicked. Because actually, so when in like the the month leading up to LVO, I think I played about 10 games of 40k a day a week in the month leading up, and of course in those. So it's really hard to quantify when the armies that I play have been in the best, have been some of the best armies in the game. That's when I've won events usually. When Guard was one of the best armies in the game at the start of 8th edition, I won a phenomenal amount of events because the army that I'm a dedicated player of was strong. And that's kind of it's probably a question we'll get to about the differences between Australia and America. But over there, when I just played the best armies in the game into them to test their lists, I beat them. I beat them plenty of times. They beat me plenty of times, and it was more like, and that was just the flow of it. And so I was really happy to see that, like, their skills wise, they're far better than me. Their knowledge is far better than me. But if you're just playing two ultra competitive lists at the same time, I can get wins. I mean, I certainly lost more than I won, but I was happy that I got any at all.
Yeah, that's a fantastic feeling. Like I think that that's a testament to where the game's at, and probably has been for the last half of ninth edition as well. But 100%, yeah.
I learned a phenomenal amount. Like there was maneuvers that they were doing that I didn't even considered ever doing that, or how mechanically you pull that off. Yeah, it was really, really eye opening.
Any like gems or moments like that you remember standing out just for like some trick that you're gonna like stick with, you're gonna use?
So I remember I played John Lennon's Forces of the Hive Mind list. He played to the New Orleans Frontline Gaming event, and I think he won it. I played my Black Templars list, the best list me and Jack could make for Black Templars, into John, and I beat him 2 out of 3 times. Like, and one of the maneuvers that ended up winning me a game, Jack came over and showed me, and it was he said, you're gonna have to use Devout Push twice, but if you use Devout Push twice, pile in perfectly, consolidate perfectly, you're going to be able to tap and wrap that Hive Guard, and you're going to win the game. And then I had to be like, okay, show me how to do that. And he came over and he's just like, picture perfect, barely ever measuring. Like he just moved, and then I'd measure and be like, yeah, you're perfect. And then he'd move again, and I'd measure it, and he'd be like, yeah, you're perfect. Because he's just eyeballing these movements, and they're like millimeter, like centimeter perfect. And eventually he got it to such a way. Yeah, that the last consolidate smacked into this unit of Hive Guard, stopped it from wiping my last unit out, to the last unit. I won by 5 points. And that kind of stuff, that stood out to me a lot because it was a play I didn't even see. And he's like, okay, if he was seeing a whole turn ahead of where I was playing, he's like, if you use Devout Push now, you're gonna be able to Devout Push then, and you're gonna win the freaking game. And it's that kind of stuff that really stood out to me.
Is that astute micromanagement, isn't it? When you get into that, like,
yeah.
It's really
plus if you grind enough reps, so you can just like start seeing, oh, this and this and this, and
the thing is, like, I mean, you can get a perfect example. So I underperformed, and I don't make any one of my. I feel like I underperformed at ETC 2019 when Australia almost won. I don't think that. I don't think, in the last round, my performance being better would have changed the outcome. Like, it wouldn't have won us that. But I certainly say up until that point, I was playing Tau, and I had played a bucket of reps, but had just been playing local pickup games into whoever was available, because I was like, I just need reps, 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 reps. In hindsight, I would have been far better off having a quarter of the games against opponents of the caliber I was going to play at WTC, which is why these guys in the Art of Warhouse do so well. They only play top table games. Every game that they play is a top table game. And so that's some learning for anybody out there as well. If you want to play tournament games, you want to be better at tournament games, play tournament caliber opponents.
The hyperbolic time chamber kind of thing they've got going on, right?
That's what Nick calls it. Nick says you're going to be a monster when you finally get back to events, because you're going to have spent time in the time chamber, which ended up being true. Not so much when I got back to Australia, funnily enough, but when I went to Adepticon before I came back, and I lost by, like, I beat Harlequins, I beat Eldar, I beat, like, with just my Dark Angels. I ended up losing by, I think it was under 10 points to an Eldar player, and like. This is pre-Armor of Contempt Dark Angels, and everyone was like, wow, and I'm like, I don't know, I lost. I didn't make the top cut, but everyone seemed really impressed, even if I wasn't.
So you said you did, but you didn't do as well when you went back to Aussie. So does that confirm Aussie better than US?
It's a different beast. It's a totally different beast. And you have to account for people differently. I didn't do as well when I went 3-1 in the 4 rounds that I played at Adepticon, because I didn't make the top cut to go on. I went 3-2 at Radicalism, the major I played here, but I'll say and try and justify my losses now. One loss was because I went second against Crusher Stampede and just got Crusher Stampeded. Like, I don't feel so bad about that. Only lost by 8 points. Like, I feel it's kind of a honorable loss, even if it is a loss. But that Crusher Stampede just does that. Because he went first, and then in my turn 1, I didn't kill a big bug, and I'm like, I used all my guns, and I didn't kill a big bug, and I'm like, yep, I'm effed.
Well, that's gross.
And so then I'm like, winning the game's out of the question. Let's just get as many points as I can. I got 82 points. I'm like, yeah, crap, okay, that's fair enough. And then I lost to Matt Morosoli, which is never a whatever. No. Who cares? Doesn't matter. But still, I had a 3-2, and yeah.
So like you touched upon your events in America. So, like, this is the whole reason you're here. We wanted to, we want to, as hosts, ask you questions about how, as an Australian, playing all your kind of 40K apart from the WTC escapades in Australia, how you found going in and literally Adepticon's like one of the longest running events over in America, isn't it? Like, it's a mainstay on the West Coast. How did you find that? Overall, like, what are the kind of cultural differences? Like, obviously, like we spoke before, and every time I see a live video from like Nick Nanavati or one of the guys doing a live, the place is just massive.
Yeah,
it seems like to get a like even just a major of that size in Australia takes a considerable amount of effort, not just from the organizers, but from like all the attendees to get to that one spot.
So there's actually quite a few differences. Some of them are more nuanced than others. Culturally, first and foremost, culturally, the top players in the US are kind of celebrated. Whereas in Australia, I get like there is, Tall Poppy is always a thing in Australia, which is I absolutely hate. But it's pretty prevalent. It's almost like I don't think the way they do it is necessarily good either, because I don't think oh cool, there's John Lennon, who does nothing, lives, breathes, works 40K. Of course he's going to be good at 40K. Like a freaking
put on a pedestal type thing. Like exactly in the US, they put on a pedestal. Also, I guess to explain to people from outside of Aussie and New Zealand what Tall Poppy syndrome is, which is it's meaning like the tall poppies in the field get cut down or something like that. Is that like where the name?
Yeah, it's envy. It's straight up envy. It's looking at someone else's achievements and be like, well, I could do that, so they're not that good. Let's tear them down. I don't.
I was going to say, or it's like like if someone does well, it's like, oh yeah, but don't be a brag about it or something, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
don't get a big,
Don't get a big.
it's
head,
not
don't be
good,
cocky.
It's
Well, I'm not sure we want that to entirely go away, but I'm not sure we want what they have either. You know, I don't quite know what right is or what utopia looks like for that. All I know is that what we've got isn't the best. But apart from that, there is their actual events are really straight up and down when it comes to rules calls, when it comes to tournaments and TOs and stuff. Everyone knows where they stand. I don't know if Australia's a little bit behind the curve on that, but like there's no arguing with, there's very few instances of arguing with the TO. What they usually say is final. And their TOs are very organized. They're very that I think they're a little bit further ahead, a little bit more mature. They've probably just been doing it, having bigger events for longer. It's probably just a time thing. And everyone knows everybody. Yeah, everyone just knows everybody in the scene in the States. Like, I rocked up and, well, of course, sorry, it's that might be a misconception because I'm walking around with the Art of War guys who everybody by default kind of knows if you go to tournaments. So maybe that isn't true. But yeah, so what was the rest of that question?
More like you talk about the nuanced stuff, and there was some bigger stuff from events. Like, was there any like when you see them, they set up these super majors, they've got all this accommodation and stuff organized, and everything is almost like it's not just a table set up with a vet with dice rolling. Like it's even if it's just a 40K event, it's almost like a convention, right?
So like the physical scale, you mean, Ben?
Yeah, like the actual
like
sheer size. Like it seems like the community, there's so many big pockets of communities everywhere. Like it just I can't get my head around it over here, if you know what I mean. Like we've got some good communities over here, brilliant communities, especially where I'm from. But just the idea of like just being able to rustle up, you know, there's when you hear about the GT line rundowns at the weekend, you're like, there was like 15 GTs this weekend, you know, or like majors, not GTs, majors, like.
It's absurd. And yeah, you talk about this kind of this wraparound thing that I suppose we're yet to get to. This is so when you get to a certain size of an event, you need to stop looking at it as a tournament. You need to start looking at it as a business, because if you don't look at it as a business, you're not going to survive, because you need so much money up front, and you need to guarantee you're going to get a return. Now, when you get to a certain sized events, you have to look at convention centers and freaking and resorts and crap. And so you have to make it beneficial for the resort to have you there by selling stuff. And so it just becomes this like, they sell it like it's a wraparound service. You're like, I'll come to the tournament, and guess what? You get to stay on site at the tournament and go to the restaurants at the resort and like do this and this and this. And if you bring your partner, she can go to a winery, or he can go to a winery, or whatever. And so they have to, like, because there's so many tournaments to go to, if you want yours to stand out, it has to be like, it's nerd capitalism. You have to like be competitive with what you're offering.
Sounds like a bit of a rat race, in that sense. You know,
yeah,
that's interesting.
But because of that, you get these phenomenal, incredibly huge, and enormously special events.
Yeah, it sounds like a whole lot different to the next event I'm going to, which is like a local guy's booked out the town hall to have, 50 mates in there to play 40K. And the selling point is like, yeah, guys, come drive 45 minutes. There's Fairly Pies down the road for lunch, like with a really good pie shop. Like such a difference.
And if I had to guess, if I had to say, that's my preference. I'd rather that event than the crazy super major in the hotel that's going for 3 days and there's like a billion things to see and do. I'm going to need to do like 1/4 of the things that I want to do. And yeah, especially if I'm streaming. If I'm streaming and I knock off at midnight, I get to like have a sandwich because all the restaurants are closed, and then crawl into bed and do it again the next day. So yeah, 100%. I love my little town hall 40 player.
Yeah, these things
events.
are massively popular. We get like 50-person ITTs, and it's like a 45-minute drive out of town, when normally tournaments here are like
amazing
across town. It's it's cool.
I love that.
Brilliant. So what about like the game itself? Did you find like, so is it like, I'm not talking about like the game itself, because obviously it's the same game, same book, same stuff like that, but like, there's a lot of iterations of terrain and stuff over there. There's like, things like etiquette. Is there different etiquette with certain things like that? I'm just looking for you to pluck ones which really stick out the top of your head.
So, straight up, you will find so many more instances of the top meta army in America than you will in Australia. Like so many more. And that's for a bunch of reasons. I'm sure you boys are aware. It's so much harder.
Almost like it costs half as much.
It's almost like it's a lot cheaper or something. Who would have known? Yeah. But that's the thing. If you are not prepared to play into the best army in the game, you're cooked. You're not doing well in an event. And like it's almost like a ceiling is put upon your result. Whereas in Australia, you could play in a 100-player event in CanCon and not play the best one or two armies in the game, because there are so many faction specialists. There are so many people who just play what they love. So many people who just play one or two factions because that's what they can afford. And so yeah, like it's very few instances. And that creates so many different dichotomies. You find that there's a lot more people getting rules wrong, I think, over there because they're constantly jumping from ship to ship to ship. But there's a lot more accountability for when they do. Like you get a rule wrong, and like and in a time when you should know better, like bang, yellow card. You don't say you don't say anything. You don't get to talk back. You just take your yellow and you continue. And so which I think's quite good for accountability. It creates a minimum standard that we all like. Everybody's like, oh crap, I gotta learn. I gotta be more confident. Because I think it was quite a bit of a blight, especially like in mid 8th edition when all the rules were coming out. People were chasing the meta really hard, and like we saw streams where people just effed up horribly and have bad reputations because of it. And so we don't want that. So we need to give players the carrot and the stick to be like, hey, know your rules, or unfortunately they're going to be consequences. Another one is really good at intent setting. There's like in America, it's just the usual at all times to set your intent, and just like I'm adopting this now. Not one game that I played in an event over there was not on a chess clock. Chess clocks are used like 80% of the time in games in America, whereas over here I feel like it's 20% of the time. And I will be using a chess. If anybody plays me in an event, I'm sorry, I'm using a chess clock, like just straight up, because it takes away so much bull crap out of the game. So much ifs and buts and who's and what's, and it's not trying to punish anybody. It's just being like, hey, let's both be accountable to each other.
It's just getting your slice of the pie, isn't it? This is my slice. It's your slice. We just eat from each one.
Exactly.
It's fair. It kind of. Sorry, go at it.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I want to add them though, because were you going to mostly like larger events or sort of like bigger affair type things when you were in the US? I'm just wondering if there was like a slight bias of what you saw there going to less like smaller things and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is a great point, mate. I did I went to the events the other War Boys were going to, all the events I was commentating for Frontline Gaming. So by default, they're like at a minimum a major status. So you're absolutely true. I didn't go to any 1-dayers. Like, I didn't even know if I went to any 25 gamers. They're all like 6 to 8 or 9. So that tells you everything you need to know. So that's a great point.
Fair enough. So I guess like it'll still hold true for those events, right? So like that's something you've noticed, but I guess the grain of salt or something, it might not be as things might be more similar on the smaller scale events. Like local stores for the stuff.
More casual. But yeah, there's a lot of differences. Every tournament I went to had food provided, like just had food at the venue. Which I think I've had that in Australia as well, especially like Uprising and stuff. They provide a catered lunch as well. I think that's a great step forward. And especially these things like for LVO and the FLG things, and also for the GW events, they have like a bordering on professional TO group, which I think something I'd love to see in Australia, like at least essential, like these are all the big TOs in a group, all got each other's backs, stuff like that, because I feel like that goes a long way to standardizing how everybody gets treated, and that's for both for TO accountability and player accountability, so that players can go from event to event and know what to expect from their TOs, like their rulings and stuff like that.
Well, Ben, you're running a bunch of events. Sort it out, mate.
Yes. So we actually early last year I set one up in New South Wales. So
fantastic, dude.
Here. So
well done.
So and it is actually been amazing, because instead of the guys instead of TOs, like they'll get that that Facebook Messenger one 2 days before an event after list submission asking you the rules thing. They can just say, hey boys, just checking on how you've ruled this. Any
Perfect.
advice? Yeah. We actually ruled it for that same player 2 months ago or whatever, and this is what we said. So, and it's really good. It's I think it takes about a year and a half for him to really kick in a little bit, but then like the players themselves kind of start to assume because you have consistency. So every event, there's not the same questions, and everyone kind of it's good. And it's positive as well. So
it's not the mum said no, so I'm going to ask dad.
you still get it.
Yeah.
You still get it. You can't avoid that. But that's right.
A lot more. So I don't want to say Australia's clicky, but because it's
clicky.
It's by default because of how far away we are from each other. It feels like it's almost.
Discretized be a better term, Adam? Because you've got your discretized, like you've got discrete pockets around the country.
I've never heard that word before.
Oh, okay.
Nor have I.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I've picked it up from doing uni maths nonsense. Yeah, so you get discrete pockets around, because you have all the different main centers in Aussie, right? Whereas the US, there's more just towns all over the show, and you get people traveling away.
It's almost like
describe it.
There's communities that are coasts of America. Like each coast of America has a community feel to it. Just by example, all the West Coasters think they're better players, but they chase the meta less. And they think the East Coasters chase the meta hard, but aren't as good at playing the game. And the East Coasters think the West Coasters just suck. Wait, other way around. Holy crap. Damn it. I got them mixed up. Never mind. Reverse everything I just said. All the sentiments stand. All the sentiments stand. What is it on Willy Wonka? Strike that, reverse it? Yeah, whatever.
Looks fine. Just say the map's upside down or something.
Yeah.
The Aussie card.
But there are distinct feelings to different areas of the states as well. They're almost like flavors to the game in different areas, and that's we used to have that in Australia as well. New South Wales, where you are, Ben, used to be like the ITC heartland during 7th and 8th edition. You guys would play the ITC rule set all the time, and the ITC FAQ, the ITC missions, whereas most of the rest of the country would play WTC missions and layouts and things of that ilk. And so we had that distinct flavor as well. We're kind of been unified, but I feel like America still has a bit more of that flavor than elsewhere. And it's interesting to see how it kind of coalesces as well. But around different clubs, different teams kind of bring their own flavors to it.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So what's when you go to an event over there, what's kind of the hobby like over there? Because obviously we had that thing at Adepticon with the
voids.
The voids, right? And that was a good solid fortnight on Facebook and Discord and everything.
Do Mr. Bond have 9 airbrushed voices?
Yeah. There was some of obviously, fitting the same generic 40k template memes that we get, but always still funny. I'm assuming it's just like Australia, but on a bigger scale. And then you get the spectrum goes from here to here, wider. So you get even better artists, but you also get some absolute trash as well.
So I think the hobby level, the best hobby level in Australia is just as good as the best hobby level in America.
That's awesome.
And I'd even say, I might not say if unfortunately, I'm just going to say it straight up. The hobby level in 8th and 9th edition has gone down because of there's more chasing. There's more people jumping from playing. There's more people playing more armies. In 7th edition, you would play maybe 2 armies in an edition. You'd get one codex for one of your armies at the start, and you'd play it for a year or two, and you get a codex for the one at the end, and you play that for a year or two. And there's your bang. And I know people now who play 5, 6 armies, and so you want to play those armies, you can do what you got to do to get them on the table.
Do you think battle ready might come into it too? People hit, all right, we got a battle ready 10.
Exactly.
We're good. Let's send it and
They exactly do spot on. They created the minimum requirement, and so they're like, oh, you need to be this tall to ride. Well, I'm going to make sure I'm exactly that tall to ride. No more, no less, which is good because it creates us a better baseline than the bottoming out we had for a while in 8th edition. It was rough. It was real rough. But at the same time, we can get a lot better with this. We can aim a lot higher as a people, as a community. But yeah, the best hobby level in Australia is just as good as the best hobby level over there. Mind you, there was some crap. We don't have anything in Australia that is like the Adepticon team tournament. I don't know if you guys know much about this. This thing is a pageant. Like you get yourself.
Oh
and
no, I've
3
seen the pictures. They're mind blowing. Because they
You
make
get like
team
your full team of
boards, don't they?
playboards, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So the whole premise is you have 4 1,000-point armies. They have to thematically make sense to be together, or you have to have a compelling piece of fluff narrative. And I have to be able to walk up to your display board, which you have to have if you want a good score on their scoring rubric, and I have to be able to see what is going on, what your theme is, what your the army, all 4,000 points have to be cohesive and make sense. It's nuts.
So
We
what,
have
you
nothing
need like
like
a
that.
4,000-point diorama.
Exactly right. You need
that's
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, like the guys who won, which was Brad Chester and Alan Baramovich's team, made the Golden Throne. Like they made a golden throne for like the Emperor's
Wow.
Golden Throne that you sat on, and then it was like a good 7 foot tall, and then on the back of the Golden Throne was a diorama where all their armies were placed upon, and because
That's
they were playing for.
amazing.
Yeah, they played 4 Custodes armies, so no wonder they freaking won. But but it also, it thematically
Were they at
made
least
sense.
4 different shield hosts?
There are no, I think they're all the same shield host because
Oh,
that made
come
more
on,
sense.
guys. Missed opportunity.
Yeah. But yeah, they all sat on the back of the Golden Throne. It was freaking cool as hell.
Yeah, I've got.
Yeah.
I love stuff. I love that. That's brilliant. I wish I could. I wish. That's the only thing about the only thing that's been probably the missed opportunity with Ninth Edition being like kind of homogenized, if you like. The game state is you're kind of missing out on a bit of that uniqueness.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't have it all, right? It feels like it's a bit of give and take, there. So
It's true.
Just come over here, Ben. We get hell games and shit. Oh, there's my
Well,
one for the episode.
It was a fact that if you especially in Australia, so I don't know how long you boys have been playing, but in Australia, we had scoring rubrics, sports scores, and paint scores. We still have it in some places a lot longer than the rest of the world. And so for them, when they did away with those things, they needed to create a reason. So they wanted for people to still do the hobby, and so they brought up the floor, but they brought down the ceiling. Is the way I see it, at least. And that's a lot to do with how Ninth Edition is played as well.
yeah.
But yeah,
definitely.
sorry. I feel like I'm taking too long on each question. Feel free to just
stress.
rain them on me.
That's fine. It's a good chat.
So what? So you did it. All right. Let's move a little bit off the 40k stuff. I want to ask you a few things about
Should we
your time.
do
So
some
you
quick
did-
fire questions, Ben? Just like off topic ones I got down the bottom.
Yeah, you want to do the
Or-
questions now. I was going to ask him about how he just found like adjusting. Let's do the questions and we'll ask him that after.
All right. Right. I've got a few random quick ones just for fun. Vegemite or Marmite, Adam?
Vegemite.
All right. And how do the Art of War guys like Vegemite on toast?
They hate it, which
Okay.
just shows how inferior their taste buds are.
So they didn't have the classic of like they hate it until an Aussie makes it for them correctly.
I didn't make it for him. I didn't bother. I'm like, yeah, I ain't trying to.
Oh, you
Well,
you
I
need to
didn't
try
have
it out next time.
I didn't have any on me. To be honest, I didn't bring any with me.
Next
If I was
time,
gonna bring
next time.
anything, I'd bring Tim Tams. They just win them over.
Yeah. Oh, when I went to the States for robotics competitions, yeah, I learned you bring like Tim Tams, and I brought like cans of LMP and traded them for shirts with other people.
Perfect, dude. Perfect.
Yeah.
We had in 2018, we had boys getting drunk from the Europeans, just trading single biscuits for like shots of tequila, like at
That's
ETC.
hilarious.
It was primo.
BCP versus DUP. Best Coast versus Down Under. All right, that one's easy.
BCP for life, but no, BCP is great.
All right. Which did you find better for like? Because you'll have done events with both actually. Like in the US, BCP is just everywhere. Which do you prefer to use?
I prefer DUP, mostly because that's the first one I used. I learned how to use it. I had Josh Diffie, who I went into business with, teach me how to use it because he built the damn thing. So I felt like I intuitively knew that one a lot better. As it is right now, like I have a little bit to do with BCP still, but I'm not finger on the pulse of that like I was with DUP.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was public knowledge that I had. I was part of. I like co-owned DUP. Like
Yeah,
I
knew
feel like
that,
I
yeah.
wasn't that surprised to hear it.
I was part of that company. Yeah, but yeah, there you go.
I haven't organized many more like quick fire questions, so this is going poorly. Ben, you want to help out? We got any here? Um,
So
oh,
I
what was
don't-
one of the like? What was one of the biggest, just like day-to-day items or something when you went to the US that seemed different? Like, so like, because I'm pretty sure light switches go the opposite way versus like on and off, and toilets flush differently, and like other weird stuff. Anything funny like that?
Yeah, there's way different. Like, like half the toilet bowl is full of water. Like in America, it's very strange. Like I mean I could tell you a bunch of private things that would tell you why that's can be uncomfortable at times. Sometimes you leave with wet parts of your body and you're like, why would they do this? Why would they have so much water in it? Don't they know men exist and got dangly bits and stuff sometimes? And um, but the one that got me is how crap the coffee is. Like Australia, I did not know how spoilt we were, but the coffee in America, I'm sorry, it sucks. You have to go looking for like like an Australian 5 on the coffee spectrum is an American 8 on the coffee spectrum. Like you got to go like word of mouth, got to go asking the hipsters where the good coffee is in America. Like, where is it? Where is it? I need to find it, my precious. And then when you find it, you're like, I'm not telling anybody else.
yeah, well, you know what? It's actually the same with. So when I lived over here, the longest stretch I lived over here without going back home to the UK was about 4 years, right? And I got really into, cafe culture had, escaped Melbourne and invaded the rest of the country. So we started getting good coffee and stuff by that point.
Yeah.
And I remember going back over to England, and I went over to like Loire Valley into France and stuff like that. And I didn't have one good cup of coffee the whole time until I came back to Australia. Even in France, places that like pride themselves on what they deliver to for stuff like that. And then now you see like all my friends are like, oh, this awesome new like artisan roasters or whatever's opened up in the UK, and you're just like, you are like 10 years behind over there. Like you're getting there, but you're so far behind.
Yeah. So for those in America who don't know, Australia had a massive intake of Europeans during either or before the World Wars or during the gold rushes, and they gave us like amazing good coffee, like world-class coffee, and we've had that forever. That's just been our basic. Australia is the only country in the world where Starbucks opened and died, like freaking opened, tried to explode, and then died and went backwards because we just already had everything they were offering times 10.
Does that mean all of Europe went backwards as well with their coffee? If like, or did just everyone good at coffee making come over?
Oh no. I've had like to what Ben was saying, I've had amazing coffee in France. I've also had crap coffee in France, which is funny, but I've had very good coffee in Italy. Like I've had extremely good coffee in Italy. Also, funnily enough, Croatia had mad coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just a different style of coffee and stuff over there. It's like it's strong, robust, and bitter. You're not in Australia. You're getting a lot more kind of different. You're getting a different kind of spectrum there. Where in Italy, you're looking for that dark. They like everything vintage and classic, don't they? So that's good. So, what about like, for example, you did a lot of traveling over there. I want to ask you about like I've always wanted to go to New Orleans.
Oh my God.
What was the food like there? Was it amazing or was it
incredible?
Yeah.
New Orleans is now apart from home and Malta, where my father's family's from, that's my third favorite place on this planet. I had such an affinity for that city, and being there felt like home to me. It was, that place is incredible. Everyone needs to go. The food was amazing. My partner and I just cooked a massive vat of red beans and rice this weekend, just gone. Just trying what we can with the ingredients we have here to capture the magic. Like, so it's such a unique culture. I spent some time learning a bit about it. So you have French influences, African influences, Spanish influences, British influences, and now American influences, all just mixing into this beautiful cacophony of like flavor, music, sound, debauchery. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
That's so good to hear. Did you, when you were over there,
jealous?
So yeah, I am. I'm just gonna move it straight on from the food stuff because it's New Orleans. I remember when you posted all your stuff up. I was like, unbelievable.
That's
mad. Crazy.
It's so good. Yeah.
Did you obviously you're gonna get the piss taken out of you a bit. That's why
100%.
When you go over to America, did they Did any of your like slang and terminology really like catch them off?
I had a bunch of people have to ask me to repeat myself because they couldn't understand what I was saying. I found that quite surprising. I know I have an Aussie accent, but I don't think it's that rough. In fact, I try and dumb it down because I'm a broadcaster and I'm on podcasts and stuff. So people need to understand what I'm saying, otherwise no one's going to listen to my shit. There's my swear for the day. There you go. I did it, guys.
That was
But I had people.
courtesy of
people just-
Colin, that one.
I had people just have no idea what I was saying. And then, but as soon as people got to know that I was from Australia, I got treated like a bit of a jukebox. Say g'day for me. Now say boomerang. Could you say that? Can you say that word for us that we're not allowed to say? And then I said country a lot.
What's
Colin's
did
not
you
gonna like that one.
Well, did you find out the hard way that because taking the piss I don't think is a term that maybe it was just when I went to the States. That's not like a term they use either.
No,
So
it's
like
not.
someone was making fun of me. I'm like, are you taking the piss? And like, what? Do you need to go to the toilet or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you do explain like it's like taking the mickey or making fun of.
Yeah,
people.
pissing in your pocket is another one I didn't get. They're all about the blow and smoke. Pissing in your pocket.
I don't know that one. Is that maybe that's just Aussie?
Really? Is that Aussie?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
I don't
maybe
know.
it is.
I haven't heard that one.
Someone's pissing in your
Yeah.
pocket. It was like they're pumping you up,
Yeah.
but like falsely.
It is an Australian thing, though, I'm pretty sure, because I don't remember
Yeah.
hearing it when I was in the UK. But
But yeah, I got treated like a bit of a jukebox. Like,
yeah.
Do you have like a best like funny accent story? Like I know when I went, I was there in the States for a robotics thing, and like we were traveling somewhere. It was like a Dairy Queen or something, and some dude's like stops us and is like, "All right, I want to try to guess where you're from." And he names like it was a specific place I think in the UK, and I'm like, "Nah, New Zealand, mate." And he goes, "Oh, I'm close."
nah.
It's like, no, it was like sarcastically. Oh, I was close though. Like, oh, damn, the dude was funny. And then he goes to like get his order, and there's like a bunch of cups. He's like, oh, I hope I need an adult. And the dude's like, 40s or something. So, it was a good laugh. You have any like? You have a best accent story?
I started playing it up. Like, I don't say g'day all that much over here. Over there, I was like, stuff it. I'm just gonna say g'day for everything, just so I don't have to explain them from Australia. I'm just gonna say g'day. G'day, how you doing? G'day, how you doing? G'day, how you doing? I did a couple of interactions just in my most ochre Aussie accent, just for the F of it, He's like, g'day, how you doing? Yeah, I'll have two of those, thanks. There, miss. And people are like, huh? Like, yeah, two of them over there, please, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, nah.
Yeah, no, how you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, how you doing? G'day. just
Yeah, not that
messing-
one. That one over. Yeah.
just messing with people. And people
Yeah,
are like,
yeah.
huh? What are you saying there,
Who
sir?
is this guy?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're out of we're out of petrol. Pull over on the
Yeah.
servo. Yeah.
Chewy. I was like, could I get 2 packs of Chewy there? And they'd be like, I'm sorry, sir. Nothing here is chewy being chewed on right now. Yeah. Because it's gum. Yeah.
Yeah.
They call it
Yeah,
chewy.
that's hilarious.
There was lots of good little instances like that where I was taking the piss.
Yeah.
Mostly out of me though.
All right.
So
Do we have any more like? Oh, you go, Ben.
No. What were you going to ask, mate?
Oh, I was going to say, do we have any more like important 40k questions that on our list here that we're sort of going all around?
Not
That
a
are worth
40,
asking?
not a 40k. I wanted to the last one we were kind of going to finish up was going to ask you, Adam, kind of what's your like plans over the next kind of couple of years. Like what's your like I know what your short term one is, but kind of your medium and long term plan for like if you don't mind sharing it with us with like content creation and stuff like that.
Yeah,
For yourself?
I'd love to go. So my dream for the start, before I started doing any podcasts or anything else, they're just kind of side to the true love, which is the live commentary. I would love to be the commentator for a professional 40k circuit. That's the bang. But so many of those things are outside of my hands. Like so many of those things are outside of. And in fact, Paul Murphy and Nick Nanavati already have that gig. I love them both. I'm just happy somebody's getting paid to do that job. If I was able to get either US citizenship or a long-term visa, I would have been. I got offered to be third fiddle to them, which I wasn't crazy about, but I was going to do it if I could because I was just like, that's just awesome. That's just cool. working for GW, being a professional streamer is always the goal, and then I can just work in there.
Yeah.
But that's the goal. The goal is to be a professional commentator for the game that I love and the community that I love. Going full time at 40k in some other means is also on the cards, as in like if any of the podcasts someone get big enough, the remuneration is enough for me to go to part-time work or not work a day job, that'd be fantastic as well. I've also like considered starting up a studio like what Tabletop Titans and Tactics do and what Art of War does, like starting a trap house in Australia one day possibly. But then again, like you'd need to be able to, like Australia would need to be able to support at least 2 other like full-time 40k people to make that
Sure.
worthwhile. So there's a lot I want to do. But yeah, top of the pile, full-time paid professional 40k commentator.
That's great.
Do you like
That's
catch your whiff
fantastic.
of it? Do you catch
Sorry?
your whiff of it staying with the trap house guys, and you just like, all right, that's what I want to do now. You're gonna make it happen.
It's a lot of work. The money goes up and down like month by month. It's like what they do is like they don't make a lot of money. I don't know what the perception is of the Art of War boys, but none of them are luxury living or living it up or whatever. There's no Mercedes. There's no like poolside resorts or anything like that. They're like a couple of dings above the poverty line each, and they're all happy because they're doing something that they adore. And I'm more than happy to do that as well. But I need a little, like, you know, there's some of them in their early 20s. I'm in my mid 30s. I can't quite like, I don't have 10 years to waste. You know, I need to have a freaking
No, it's true.
retirement soon or a house, some stability. So there's a few more considerations for me. I need a sure thing if I'm going to take that leap.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. It's you know, like you said, it's hard to figure out kind of what the direction with where everything's going to be headed in general with that kind of thing, isn't it? It's almost like we're waiting for another kind of escalation point on content with 40k, because it feels like it's kind of covering every corner at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's at an explosion point, or it's at a unfortunately
A peak.
Yeah, it's at a peak, and it's either going to stay at this peak and not kind of get any bigger because we just don't have a market share. Like there's only so many subscriptions, podcasts, you know, super chats people can give, you know, and
Sure.
if and I feel like the market is almost at saturation point as well. Like there
We
are
need
so
more
many people.
world.
We need more eyeballs.
I
Like, we
literally
need-
was about to say, except for
Yeah.
Nurgle Matthew.
Yes, Nurgle Matthew is
That you
literally. You seen Atlas holding up
Yeah.
the world? Nurgle freaking Matthew, my boy, just like whole professional community on his shoulders, propping us all up.
Do you remember for ages there was like people trying to work out if that was like a collective of people? But no, I think it's just the one dude. Like he showed up actually at some physical event.
I met him at Adepticon. Yeah, lovely guy.
Yeah.
He just walked up wearing a mask saying Matthew Nurgle, and I did a double take. I'm like, no way. And I arrived, gave him the biggest freaking hug. I'm like, dude, oh my god. Yeah, I geeked out for him, like totally geeked out.
That's
to meet
awesome.
Matthew Nurgle. I
The
joked
next
that he
level
was.
move.
I joked that he was a Colombian drug lord that had to keep his secret love of 40k like hidden from his posse, his cartel, or else they think he was weak, and so he just secretly just slapped all this money down all the time.
That's brilliant.
It's like an
That's
Uno
so
reverse
good.
card though, where the
Yeah.
the 40k content creator, like minor celebrity sort of thing, sees someone from chat and like fans about them.
Fans out, yeah.
When it's
Yeah,
like
it
the
was-
opposite way, where someone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Adam Camilleri," and can you say
I'm-
g'day for me, mate?
Just so you know, that stuff makes me so uncomfortable. I had a dude at LVO want me to autograph his Dark Angels Codex, and I couldn't do it. It just he
That's
walked
so
up at
funny.
lunchtime. I was having a lunch break with Peter, and so when I'm having a break from like I've just talked for 3 hours straight, I don't want to talk that much, but you know, of course somebody comes and says hello. I'm going to say hello and whatnot. And so these 2 blokes walk up with a pen and a Dark Angels Codex, like, we really like it if you signed this. I'm like, oh boys, I'm not sure I'm ready for that Rubicon. Like, I'm not sure. I've never signed anything before. I've never done an autograph, and as soon as I do, I was like, there's no going back. Like, I am a
But
public
Peter-
figure.
Peter
Yeah,
would have
and, like,
loved
supposedly
that,
if you get-
signing a Dark Angels Codex too, wouldn't he?
He would have. And so I couldn't
Supposedly
do it. Yeah,
Oh.
sorry.
Yeah, like supposedly if you get famous as well, you meant to have like a signature for autographs and then like your legal signature or something. You got to like work this out if you're going to be.
Oh crap! I didn't know
So-
that.
I don't know if that's a thing, but like it makes a level of sense, right? Of like,
Yeah.
So
So people can't like copy the autograph from their freaking.
I think that's the theory, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But so yeah, I couldn't do it. This guy's Dark Angels Codex sat there for the entire event, and I'm just like, I can't. I'm not ready to do that. I'm sorry. I felt a bit disappointed for the guy because I felt like I let him down, but I just wasn't up for it. And yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know if you guys have had this since you started podcasting stuff, but I have such imposter syndrome. Like running through every cell of my body is imposter syndrome. Like you don't deserve to. I taught Poppy myself, by the way. I'm like, piece of crap. Someone could do this better than you. You should stop so someone better can do this. That
No,
kind
I
of stuff.
literally do that myself. Yeah, every
I've
day.
just been bad at like advertising it. There's like the
Good to
Cracking
know.
Cast guys locally, and they were like post on the like 40k NZ page. I had to add I added Sam to the local page so he could like find pictures of an event to put them up on like a past show. And then he starts posting them. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting tagged.
Yeah.
But it was fine. And I've had a couple local guys say like, they've listened, they've enjoyed it. I played against
Awesome.
one of the guys and says, oh, is this gonna come along? He gave me instructions of like what to talk about in our game.
Ha! You're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about that.
It was
Right.
more about like the joking before the game needed to be conveyed, and then how he did follow through on his threats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I was at a teams tournament the other weekend, and I was playing the Victorian side, and I was playing Thousand Suns, and the guy on the table next to me, the Victorian guy, said, "Are you on Frontiers?" I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Yeah, I can recognize your voice. I was listening to it. I was listening to it on the
Brilliant.
plane this morning." He was just like, but his face was like, I couldn't quite pick if he was actually like, or your voice was like, "Oh, I recognize your voice," in a positive way. It was very like murky. It was like, "Oh, your voice, oh yeah," like that. It wasn't. Yeah, which to be honest is fair enough because I've got a very annoying voice, so I get told a lot by my wife. So
She married you. She had choices in that decision.
it's too late.
Like,
It's too late.
I think
now.
It's over. Yeah.
Alex
Accept
got
it.
called out massively by the Korean guys, right? Like the first episode goes up talking about 40k in Korea, and he gets like they like search through like the Korean 40k Kako chat. And it's like, are you the one? Are you the Alex? Are you the? And they found the right one, like within hours of it going up or something.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, just a couple of listener questions, just actually just two or three, for the
brilliant.
guys,
Yeah.
Adam, if you don't mind.
Bring them on.
Yeah. So, what is each Art of War member like to play against?
Okay, so Richard is really, as you can assume, is very straight up and down, but he needs to have extra context at the start of the game. Like he will go through every single piece of terrain, and you have to agree upon how you're going to play it, how you're going to rule it, how big the deployment zones are, how many CP you have, can you do this, can you do that. He's like he literally robotically runs through like a checklist in his head.
All the info to then compute the perfect strategy to beat you by 1 point.
Exactly. He needs all the info up front. Nick is like a fart in a bottle, just kind of bounces around. But I kind of feel like it's half an act that he wants you to think he's lackadaisical and he's not focused because he always seems to know what's going on and has a plan. So there's that. But he's just like he's ADHD AF. Like that's just
He's
just
also
him. And
here at a party, isn't he?
Exactly right. And I relate to that. I'm ADHD as hell as well, if you couldn't notice. John he's probably the most competitive in the house.
Like competitive personality type thing.
As in like on like not to a detriment. Like he's the one who'll push you the furthest. Like through his gameplay. He's always like so. Richard will play.
Really,
Is it like
Richard will play.
trying to? Oh, is it like trying to better everyone? Like improve everyone? Like the rising tide lifts all ships, sort of competitive.
Him and Jack will, or both of them will almost semi-coach you into beating them. I even feel like that's why I got any wins in that house at times. Richard will play the tightest game imaginable, and he will make 0 mistakes. And by default, you will make some, and therefore he will win. But that's the way he sees it. Like, if I just make 0 mistakes, which is easily within my power, I'm going to win because you're not perfect and I am. That's Richard Siegler.
If you only go to 6 tournaments, you can there's less times you can make mistakes. It's easier.
That's right. But, I mean, if you only lose like 1 game out of 6 tournaments, I can't believe that season will go down in history, and I hate that because he's going to be insufferable. He's insufferable as hell. So John is the most competitive because he draws it out of you. He's like, I'm going to put you in positions. I'm going to I'm going to pressure. John is almost like here. It's hard.
He seems ultra focused.
He's very intensely focused.
And like I said, got no blinkers. It's just peripheral.
Yeah,
there's no peripheral. It's just this is it.
Yeah, and Jack is the same, but Jack's pretty hard on himself as well. Jack, it's like Jack holds himself to a very high set of standards, and sometimes when he doesn't meet them, he can beat himself up a little bit. Either on or off the table, it depends on how that's going to go. But John is, and so talent wise, Richard's the most talented, like just naturally gifted at this kind of stuff. Like if he played chess, he'd be amazing at that. If he played any like RTS or strategy game, he'd be phenomenal at that. Like whatever he would give this much of himself to, he would be like world class at. That's just him. John's phenomenally talented at 40k. Like intuitively, he builds incredible lists. His strategies are only second to like Richard. Jack is like the guy who he's got a really good understanding of the game. He's very extremely talented, but he's like honed. He's like when Jack's knife edge perfect, he can beat anybody in the world. Straight up, just beat anybody in the world. But he seems to have more gears than the others. Like he's quite happy just effing around, you know. Whereas John, especially John and Richard, they will never not play at their absolute freaking best all times, all days, all night. No downward step. Like me and Jack just like effed around for like whole like weekends just playing games, just like whatever, let's just chuck this shit in and see what happens, blah blah blah.
What about Mark Perry?
Mark is an enigma. The usual time and space does like warps around Mark. Mark doesn't adhere to physics. I once there's stories of him just like making 5 like 9 and 10 inch charges in a row, back to back. You know, there's also stories of him eating like 4 liters of ice cream directly before bed. You know, the usual rules do not apply to Mark Perry.
Was it like a Florida Man podcast or like an Art of War thing or something where maybe it was Colin talking about Charity Hammer. We're like, oh, we need to move the piano, and Richard's just like, oh yeah, I'll bring a Mark, and Mark moves the piano. Yeah.
The whole piano by himself. Like,
powerful man.
Reasonably, 4 blokes could move that piano, and he just picked it up. Yeah, and he's a freaking unit, but he's not like bodybuilder huge. He's like mountain man, bear wrestler big, you know,
like strongman big, right? Not,
strong, exactly. He's like a strong man. Yeah. So yeah, he doesn't adhere to any rules, but he's another one. He's like the way he acts, the way he talks, you would take him lightly, almost like he's joyous. He's pretty bubbly, and then he's a freaking savage. He's a monster. But once again, see the difference between him and say Jack, because I think Jack's like talent-wise at the games is a little bit more. But Mark only plays 2 or 3 factions. He plays Orcs and Chaos. Whereas like Jack plays whatever is best that he can bring himself to play. And John as well. John will play just about anything as well. And so they always seem to have the edge on Mark because Mark's playing like in his own little sandbox, and they're just playing in like a bigger sandbox.
Yeah. Do any of the Art of War guys remind you of players back home in Aussie? Like, are there any parallels that you see?
Yeah, Richard. The way Richard plays reminds me a lot of Eric Lathuris, in the fact that he will just refuse to make a mistake. And he'll put you in a position where you need to make a risky play, like you need to. He offers you opportunities to make a mistake by default by him not making any, like. Because he places himself in a winning position and then refuses to make a mistake. And so therefore you need to do some random ass crazy crap to shake up his plan. And by doing so, you make mistakes. I was
expecting he might be either Eric or Chris Wright might get compared to Siegler.
Chris Wright's another good comparison. Matt Morosoli, Nick Nanavati are quite similar as well, in the way that when they play very extremely calculated but kind of chaotic 40k, like they're very happy to be aggressive, very happy to just sit in a corner and not move. Actually, no, probably like John. Probably John and Morosoli are similar. I'm not sure we have a comparison for Nick, because Nick's kind of weird. Like the way he acts, you're like, you shouldn't be good at this game, Nick. You shouldn't be good, but he's good. He's very good. He's world class. Yeah.
Liam and his Meganobs.
Um.
I'm just thinking after like
So Australia has
normal bloke thing.
Australia has a lot of there's a lot unique about Australian players. So it's very hard to compare Aussies. It's more like I'm trying to compare archetypes of players. Like, oh, here's a methodical, like calculator type person, like Richard is. Yeah, Chris is a perfect example. As in personality wise, Chris and Richard are quite comparable. But on the table, Eric and Chris are more. So Eric and Richard are more comparable. Yeah, I suppose that's right. I think John and Matt Morosoli are quite comparable when they play on the table as well. They're both very calculated. Always really have like they know their win conditions very well.
Is there what's like the kind of sorry, what were you going to say? We're going to finish off with one more with the.
Yeah, I suppose Nick and Jeremy Martino are quite comparable as well, even in their 40k careers, like winning ITCs and LVOs versus winning CanCons and ITCs over here. So that could be a good comparison.
What? Just a quick one. What was your like? Did you find the Americans' perceptions on Australian players and 40k itself was like?
We got a lot of respect for what we did in 2019 at WTC. Yeah. In all honesty, one of the great things that I hope I'm able to do by the time everything's said and done, and one of the things I try and push myself to do, one of the things that you guys are doing right now is raising the public profile of our nations, of our communities. Australia was a freaking joke of a place. For all through 7th edition, we were and most of 8th edition, we were just basket on our heads, playing the game so differently to everyone else in the world. No one really respected what we were doing. And WTC, we weren't showing that we were a nation worthy of like fear, respect, admiration either. So I feel like what myself and Peter Patel and the rest of the 2019 team were able to do was to go out and say, hey, look, here we are, some of the best in Australia representing our country. And we kicked the crap out of all of them with the exception of one. And so we were able to be like, hey, we need to stand up and be recognized as a legitimate threat. We have great players in Australia. We play the game in a very unique way because we have such faction specialists, people like Liam, who played a list that did not get much respect, and then he clubbed Nick Nanavati like a seal in that matchup, like 17-3'd him, like just smashed him. Like Eric Lathuris did the same thing to who was it? He's won an LVO. He's Alex Harrison, and Eric Lathuris played in the singles, and Alex was like, I'm just going to roll over this guy's 180 termagants, and Eric smashed him, completely smashed him. Like stuff like that just garners like eyeballs. Like, you know, as soon as he did that, by the way, and this is something that taught us a lot. As soon as everyone heard that Eric had beaten Alex so thoroughly, Sean Naden came and sat at Eric's next table for like 2 hours and just watched him play and scouted him out because he needed to be like, how did he do that? How does that list work? Because he plays in such a unique way that no one else could understand until they saw it. And so that stuff is what we want to showcase. We want to showcase we're not a basket head, we're not a basket case of a place. We're a place where unique, crazy stuff happens, and we're as good as anybody. I'm sure exactly the same for NZ as well. Like so much to say for NZ. So I don't know if you know this, Alex, but NZ used to win every ATC. It used to be.
You guys are lucky we're not there this time.
Dude, it used to be which one of us is going to be able to beat the NZ team this year? Because from our point of view, like you guys had a whole nation of players, even though populations are quite small, but you had a whole nation to pull from. We have like, it's me and my mates in ATT. We're going to have a good trucking time. That kind of stuff.
Sam in the background.
Yeah, he's going to be fuming. But that's what I mean. Like, we want to join the global community as a country, as a community. As a nation, as a community.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly what we're trying to do. So yeah,
I love it.
Thanks so much for coming on, Adam. Oh, we do have another couple of listener questions.
Smack him in. Let's do it. Let's do it. If you guys are
So
down.
what? Here's a good one. What flavor of ice cream would each member of the Art of War be, and why? And then, just so you know, one of the boys said, "Why is it flavor of the month?"
That is quite good. That is very good. Okay.
That wasn't Aussie that said that too, I think.
Richard Siegler is vanilla ice cream. I'm just gonna let that sit for a minute. If I had a microphone, I would mic drop right now. But because it's the one that nobody hates having, and it's good with everything.
Old reliable, right?
Old reliable vanilla. Nobody hates vanilla. I mean, if you have the choice, you'll choose something else. But vanilla is still good. I'm trying not to like. There's not going to be any chocolate with Nick Nanavati because that's just too on the nose. He's choc mint. He's fun. But you think it's going to be exciting, but it's just like choc mint. It's just good. It's just a good time. Spice up your life. I don't have much reasoning behind any of these. I'm just whipping them out off the top of my head. So if I'm insulting in any way, please forgive me. And if I've said a lot of dumb crap on this episode, so please forgive me for all that too. Hope it's entertaining.
It's
at
brilliant.
least.
It's brilliant.
I feel like boysenberry or something weird off meta for Jack, or no, for Mark. Sorry, for Mark, like boysenberry or some crap like that.
Like Boysenberry Ripple or something good.
Yeah. Jack, my boy, my love. He is rainbow. You think you like rainbow? It looks enticing. You're like, oh, cool. It's so special. It's actually just caramel flavor. If anybody doesn't know, that's exactly what it is. It's caramel flavor. Hate to burst your bubble. I'm having trouble with John. I think John's chocolate. I think John is chocolate flavor. Yeah, that's it. I don't no reason for any of those crap. I made some up because I feel like I should. Hopefully they hold up. All right, what else we got?
This is carrying on slightly from what we spoke about earlier, but how do you feel that 40k content, like in general, develops? Like we spoke about earlier, and you spoke about we touched upon it lightly. Do you think that it needs the game itself to evolve further for the content itself to evolve? Does that make sense?
Yes and no. We have some great innovators like Joe at War Games Live, the guys on the Tabletop Titans, Tabletop Tactics, all those dudes pushing, like, not so much pushing the envelope, but putting out like legitimately sit down in 3 hours watchable content. But there is a point where G-Dub needs to take a hand. I mean, they're doing like Warhammer Plus and that stuff. So they're trying to legitimize and mainstream some part of the IP, which is good. And that's kind of, if we want to get to that explosion point, that's what we need more of. There's not much that we can do outside of freaking Henry Cavill coming on my show or some crap. There's not much I can do to explode. I can have moderate growth in what I do, and that's the same for most content creators. There's moderate growth and incremental gains, but an explosion point for everybody kind of almost has to come from G-Dub, either in legitimizing some kind of professional level of the game or mainstreaming the game itself, the IP, and therefore getting an influx. You guys remember Dawn of War? Dawn of War games? And just how many people rocked up with Raven freaking whatever they're called, Blood Ravens, because they got into the game playing Dawn of War. That kind of stuff. We need something like to just bang, pull in a whole new generation, a whole new intake. That
was always how I like. If I was trying to explain what I did as a hobby, I would ask like, "Oh, do you guys remember the Dawn of War video games?" And then they'd be like, "Yeah." Well, often people would be like, "Oh, I sort of knew them." It's like, "Yeah, it's a tabletop game. It's based off."
Yeah, exactly.
It was like because it was like that level of popular or like common.
So I think there's people out there. I mean, Play on Tabletop's another one. They're making the actual playing of the game as viewable as possible. I'm not sure there's anywhere else you can go to make it as a more viewable experience than what like Play on Tabletop, Tabletop Titans, Tabletop Tactics are doing. And that's with the different formats. Like, so Tabletop Titans is the live format. As in you watch a game being played live with presenters. There's War Games Live, which is you actually watch a tournament game live with some form of commentary, usually player mics. There's what LVO and GW are doing, as in the live sports coverage, where we try and give you the full event experience from home. And then there's like the Tabletop Tactics, which is the post-battle report. So they film a battle report, post-production, give you the game, which is the same for Play on Tabletop. So there's lots of different modes for how the game is delivered, and then innumerable more for how the fluff is delivered, audiobooks, people doing reviews and stuff, and podcasting. But there's only so far we can spread that before we need something apart from us to take us to the level, because we're essentially all drinking from the same well. We're all going to the same well for all these things.
100%.
For a cheeky plug, have you seen the bit reps that Collins put out on the best in tabletop?
The talk over bat reps.
Yeah,
I love him. I love the idea. Funnily enough, I don't know if any guys, you may have met him, Ben, but a gentleman named Simon Gojkovic.
Yeah, I met Simon.
He used to do that freaking years ago.
Really?
For his old club, Godhammer Gaming.
He would Godhammer, yeah.
Yeah, he'd put a time lapse camera over his table, and he would do 10 minutes. It was all he would need to do a 3-hour game, and he would just self-commentate what happened in the game over it. It wasn't that exciting, by today's standards, but when there was nothing else going on, that shit was gold.
Yeah,
Aussie's ahead of their time.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. He's one of the people who inspired me to do something like that.
He's a champion, Simon.
Absolutely,
Great.
legend.
Yeah.
Well,
Adam,
one last question.
All right, yeah.
This is from NSA Wilson, and it's sent as 4 discrete messages of where is my slice of Art of Warhouse?
Slice of Art of Warhouse?
Yeah, like slice of life Art of Warhouse thing. Were you meant to have a video camera walking around being, oh no.
That was one of the projects I was going to get started when I was there for another 3 months. I was going to, because one of the things the Art of War boys don't do amazingly well compared to other places is bring across personality. Have that cult of person. There's so many people who love them for how good they are at the game and how much content they produce and stuff. But to truly fall in love with somebody and become attached to a brand, you have to invest in the people in it. And so I wanted to bring people the world of the Art of Warhouse and just show people
show segment what it takes to feed Mark Perry.
Yes, dude, spot on. Feeding the beast, that could be the title. Yeah, stuff like that's me and Nick used to go for jogs. We would just show you guys me and Nick just talking crap, going for a jog, just daily life, and hopefully you guys can start to fall in love with the guys I love, and therefore, well, from an Art of War point of view, it would be a way to make people want to stay in the war room, stay with and get some more retention from the community.
Yeah,
not that there's a problem with the retention, by the way. Well, no.
Oh no, that's right. That's right. Well, thanks so much for coming along, Adam. We really appreciate that. I've actually noticed. I've been checking a few of the events I've been going to in the next few months. I've seen your name on a few waiting lists.
Yeah,
so
man.
Waiting to get in. I've seen it on there. So hopefully you managed to get in. But I'll see you this weekend at ATC.
Yeah, dude, cannot freaking wait. Should be an awesome time.
I think, are you going to Terracon in June?
Absolutely am, man. Won't miss it.
Yeah, I'll see you then. I'll see you then as well.
Oh,
so brilliant. Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed yourself and stuff like that. It was really good to hear about some of the stuff you got up to over there. That's pretty amazing.
Is there anything you want to plug, Adam?
How long you got?
I mean, we've been going a while. You can plug something quickly here.
Catch me on Art of War Down Under Tuesday mornings at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. A review of I'm doing a month of reviews on the Chaos Codexes. The Night Codexes. First two will be the Imperial Knights. The first one coming out this week. All 4 of those episodes are going to be with Anthony Vanilla because I wanted to keep the same dude for all the Night Codexes.
Yeah, nice.
So the first one will be coming out this week. Next one next week, and blah blah blah. You get the idea. On FTN, catch me, the lovely Paul Murphy, Tanya Gates, and Red Powell. In addition to the Thursday show, which is Thursdays 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is your weekend hype show for all of the weekend's upcoming events. A meta breakdown. Think of it like the pre-fight. What do you guys call it? Fight Club. Fight Club.
Was it like a forecast for the upcoming tournament week?
Yeah, I mean, we started first, so they copied us. They're piggybacked off, what we were doing. But yeah, we will hype you up for your weekend's goodness, and then you can catch the post show over on Fight Club.
My word, you're a busy man.
Just a little bit.
Man,
I'm back to
mate. We love your work.
I'm back to a 9 to 5. The juggle. The juggle of all the content.
Well, mate, keep up the good work. And us and the community love listening to what you're doing. So.
No, You guys keep up the good work. I love what you guys do. Thank you so much for having more content, putting more faces out from our side of the world. Really appreciate it. My absolute pleasure to be on your show, guys. Loved it.
Thanks, Adam. Cheers.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adam Camilleri. All the links for all his podcasts and all the shows he's done should be down below. I'm sure if you've ever heard about him, like, you should be subscribing and listening to him already. So, look, it is what it is. Yeah, well, moving on to Mr. Pask. So, talking about the Dallas Open. So, you know this, 2 weekends ago, still at the exact same time when Benny Way was having his team's event, you attended the Dallas Open. So, please inform us, tell us, how was it?
So yeah, this is the Dallas Open. It was held in Irvine, Texas. It's like a suburb of Dallas, basically. It was right by the airport, which was really interesting. It was a large event. I don't have the exact number of players because it fluctuated a little bit. It's partially to blame for some of that, as we'll cover here in a bit. So I'll cover that, and then I want to talk a little bit kind of as a retrospective, or we'll do that now. We'll do the overview. This, unbeknownst to me, was my last event in the United States. As I talked about earlier, I was supposed to attend Seattle, and that move is coming up, and it made me a little reflective on kind of my 40K career thus far. That really was interesting. For those of you listening to the episode, which is all of you at this point, Adam Camilleri, when he talked about traveling around the United States and seeing different oddities in the US, it kind of reminded me, I've played in 3 different metas over the last 4 years. I played in Pacific Northwest, Washington, the Seattle area, a little around Con Stomping Grounds, but a little before Best in Faction really came out. I was playing up there in 7th edition. I played through good chunk of 8th edition in the Florida Panhandle in the South, and then I played a little bit out here in the Texas area, and then I played all of 9th in basically the Texas meta, occasionally jumping back to the coasts or the South to play in events. And what I thought was interesting in there is there actually is a significant difference there. The Texas events are always a huge party. There's a lot of people there, a lot of drinking for those who want to partake. And it is a party for everyone involved, and they do a good job of including everyone in that. So a lot of people travel Texas has its own circuit of events, and there are people who are dedicated to only playing the Texas events, and they'll travel. They coordinate with each other to make sure nobody's GT conflicts with anybody else's GT, and they travel around the state. And neighboring states now, Oklahoma gets in on the action a lot, but they'll travel around and they play exclusively there. And it's developed its own little meta. A lot of Marine chapters, a lot of random Space Marine chapters running around there, and it's a lot of fun. But when I was playing in the South, it was a lot more chaos stuff, a lot more orcs. And then from what I remember, Pacific Northwest, Tau and Eldar. I saw a lot of that on the West Coast, and back when I was playing in 7th. So it is a different game at the time. And I was playing a different army. I was a guard player back then. Still like to think of myself as one. So bounced around there. And there really is a difference in the United States in how the game is played in different areas. But we'll go from there to the Dallas Open. So the joke I like to tell about the Dallas Open, starting out, I get there the night before. I'm settling in. I get there early. I'm doing grad school finals at the same time. So I'm actually writing my final paper at a GT. Pro tip, never do that. It was incredibly stressful and is, spoiler alert, a reason I dropped round 8. I dropped in combination with a few things, and I went and finished my final. Ended up being the best decision I could have made. That actually helped me out a lot and gave me some time to just kind of decompress. 8 games of 40K in a weekend is a lot. I would have loved to shoot for 16. I would have loved to go up to Seattle. It wasn't in the cards this time. So hopefully we'll get that done later. So Dallas Open. Was a longtime Tyranid player convention because everybody I met early on has been a Tyranid player their entire life. There is one person there, Quentin Johnson, who occasionally does stuff for Art of War. Him and I have ran into each other in basically every GT we have attended. Without coordination, we run into each other. He is a phenomenal player and a wonderful human being. And I told him this joke about this being a long time. Everyone here has played Tyranids for so long. He played Tyranids at Dallas and could give you the exact date that he started playing Tyranids. It was in April. So was the Dallas Open. He actually, it was like 2 weeks before, was like, I'm playing Tyranids now, and had a Tyranid He works.
That's too good.
And it was hilarious. And he
Yeah.
he joked because he'd give you the hour too of like, this is the moment I decided to play Tyranids.
Brilliant.
And so
That's excellent.
he plays a lot around with the Art of War guys, and they're great. The night before, I decided I'd take one of the Art of War classes. It was a great time. I'll shout them out, even though they're on a well, Adam was on the show. They're absolutely phenomenal. Class was taught by the one and only Nick Nanavati and Jack Harpster. I'd actually played Jack at LVO, and he recognized me when I was at Dallas. We talked for a little bit. It was phenomenal class, great guys. So we roll into day one of Dallas, and I'll run you through what my list is, and then I'm going to point out what I learned actually in that Art of War class, and then very quickly in the event was the glaring issue with my list. So it was a single Death Guard Vanguard. It had a Lord of Contagion. It had a biology professor hand out mortal wounds man, foul blight spawn, and a tally man. It had 30 cultists, 3 squads of 10. Really liked them. Had a big block of blight lords, 3 units of Death Shroud. One of them kitted out to do a ton of mortal wounds. One of them to do exploding attacks, and a chaff unit that had no upgrades. And then 2 squads of 2 Mephitic Blight Haulers. That's the list. For those listening at home, it's Vanguard. There's 1 HQ. There's no Psyker in that list. I took that because I thought in my have not actually tested this, I'm just taking it to an event brain, that I'm not going to take a Psyker, and that's going to help me against Tyranids. It did not even close. But it did give me Abhor against Grey Knights and Thousand Sons, which I learned is incredible overkill. That list does not struggle into Grey Knights anymore. So cutting the Psyker out was a mistake, which meant I didn't have a third secondary that I could do sitting on my end of the board, which is what Death Guard wants to do. So I could do banners. I could do To the Last. And then I had to do a secondary that required me to push into the center of the board with To the Last targets. This was a fatal flaw in the list, because to score points, I had to risk other points doing that. So we're rolling. My round one, and I'll go into specifics on a couple games, but the first one, round one, I played the son of actually a guy I played at a previous event. Very nice kid, just getting back into competitive 40K before he shipped for BMT for the Air Force. I won't name the guy because he's heading off to do good things in the military. He was playing Space Marines. Been a while since he played. That was 91-27. Death Guard owned every objective at the end of the game, and I teleported nothing. I walked across the board. Round two, I played into Knights, and this was where I really picked up on a skill that I've been trying to practice, which is actually reading your damn scorecard. Because I had bottom of turn, and I was playing against 3 big Knights, 4 armorers, with an objective in the center. And he runs up, super aggressive. I'm playing really defensive, and I'm looking at that going, I have probably lost. I fail a 5-inch. No. I fail a 6-inch charge in there. That's a good one. This is a good sign. This is going to be a trend. And so we get to my turn 5. We look at the scorecard, and I say, okay, put the clock on me. And he goes, okay, well, what you got going on? I said, I'm going to sit here for like 5 minutes and add up the score. I want to see exactly what I have to do to win. So we added up. I'd won by 1 point. And I went, oh, so I'm just going to do stuff that I think is fun because there's actually nothing I can do to lose at this point. I hadn't tracked that well during the game, and I got very lucky at the end. I should have been tracking that better. So we rolled that. That was good. And here's my game 3. And this, in retrospect, is a turning point in the event, which is game 3, day 1. For context, Dallas Open had some technical issues while I was there. The event hall didn't have air conditioning the first day. It's almost summer in Texas. It's hot. It's real hot. I've been hydrating all during the day, but I'm more out of shape than I want to be for this event. So I'm tired. I'm frustrated. And I roll into Custodes. I roll into triple Achilles Custodes, and it looks like a one of everything list, and I get cocky. I get real cocky. And I decide that I'm going to till last, and I'm going to take Stranglehold, and I'm just going to hold part of I'm going to rush into him early on, and I'm going to kill him off because I have more rules than he does, and my rules make me more defensive. So he gets first turn. It's Vital Intelligence, so he's got the points down the center. And he does something that I didn't really think about, even though I own Custodes and I should have known it, which was he does advance an action turn 1, and he advances onto every objective and puts a banner. And at that moment, I lost the game because I have to clear every objective as an army that can't move quickly. So I look at it and I go, all right, this is it. I need to dive on his big. He had 2 Achilles, Trajan, and some. I think they were a shield guard squad, like a 4-man with shields. And I go, cool. I'm diving on it. This is where I win the game because I'm going to throw all of my damage dealers onto that. None of them are to the last targets. It's a bunch of Death Shroud. They're pooping out mortal wounds. I fail a 9-inch charge in there, but that's fine. I've got 6 Death Shroud and the Lord of Contagion in there, and I got this. Trajan Heroics in 6, which I've at this point completely forgotten that he can do, just base. Turns out you should probably read that before. And I lose the entire battle ball and most of my Death Shroud, which is also most of my OBSEC. So I have 1 OBSEC unit left. It is my to the last target. And he took the Custodes thing where he has to kill the most expensive unit, which is those Blight Lords. I look at the board. I look at him. We have played 30 minutes of the game. It is bottom of 1. And I look at him and say, we can either play this for 2 hours or I can call it because I have lost. And he goes, no, you got it. I said, nope. You have a banner on every objective. And you own every objective now because it was OBSEC. I have 3 units left that can engage. So either we can play this out or I can scoop. And he looks at it and he says, okay, if that's how you feel, we called a judge over. And because it was so early, we talked through it. And he said, yep, you basically can't score anything else because if those Blight Lords walk out, they die. And then I have nothing holding any objective, and I'll actually start losing points because I'm not holding certain things. So that was the fastest game of 40K I've ever played, and is indicative of some of my issues where I see a list that I don't understand and think I can just roll over it. So that was 100 to 15 points. It was bad.
Would have been the heat getting to you there, probably, mate.
A little bit of that too.
Yeah,
it was also, and this is a very important thing about talking about intent before a game. I play dice flat. If they're at an angle, I don't play them. I pick them up and re-roll them.
Yep.
Now, if they land flat anywhere, so if they land on a base, they're good, but I say it has to be flat. If it's even a little bit at an angle, I'll re-roll it. The unfortunate part is I did not have that conversation before this game started. And we did have a little bit of an argument in the middle when we were doing saves. I had a save that I'd seen. It was at the angle. And I went to go re-roll it, and it got a little heated, no pun intended. So I decided, you know what? It's not worth having a fight over this. We'll play it as it is. And I decided to pull after that. The guy was very nice. He ended up doing very well with a very good Custodes list that I'm starting to model what I run off of. So we'll go from there. Round 4, day 2, 9 a.m. I go into Leviathan Nids. I lose 100 to 30. Moving on. That game is not winnable. It doesn't matter what kind of weird tech I try and do. I lose. Moving on from there, I play into OBSEC pregame move Necrons. For those Death Guard players out there, I scored 14 of 15 points on Despoiled Ground. I had bottom of turn. I didn't even know how that objective scored until that game. And it turns out it is a better stranglehold in a lot of cases. It was really cool. And my opponent was great. He was basically one of the ringers. And that last turn, we're trying to him and I pull the book out, look at Despoiled Ground, look at the table and go, how the hell do I score this? And we actually work together to math out and figure out how I max the score because neither one of us are making it are winning anything at this point. We're just having a good time. So that was a lot of fun. It was a heartbreaking game. It was a 2-point loss because I had misplayed scouring and doing a scan. I have a Sam. The last time we played, I did the same thing, and I did it again here, where I turned my brain off and just didn't scan anything. So that was and I dropped all of my reserves and tried to those 3 Death Shroud are going to survive right next to the Silent King for a turn, so I can rod with them, right? No, they don't. They die slower than you would think, but they die. So I was making mistakes in that game, and I was starting to get in my own head. Round 6, I played into Grey Knights, 92 to 56. The guy was very nice. He left 30 interceptors off the board. I asked him if he wanted to bring them in turn 4 because we were playing. It was late. The gentleman had talked to me before, had some injuries that made memory difficult. And I said, I have no issue. I said, I'm never going to let you forget a psychic phase, and we're take backs here. And I said, do you want to bring the interceptors in? We'll place them just now, and we'll be good to go. And he goes, nope, I made the mistake. I'm going to take it. That's fine. That's 6 points for that's 3 points for no prisoners and 6 points for Abhor the Witch. So Didn't help me win the game. I was probably going to win it regardless based on how everything else in the game had gone, but it wasn't great. So end of the day, let's see, I won two games the first day, won one game the second, so I'm 3-3. I go into game 7, or I play into Custode's list. That is a 2-point loss, 87-85, and I determine I have lost this game top of 1 again because he pushes everything onto all the center objectives, or onto the center objective, holds 3 points, is getting stranglehold. I push in with a 6-inch charge, and he goes, "I'm going to Tanglefoot you." I'm like, "You can't do that. I'm Deathguard. You can't reduce my movement." And I go, "Cool. It's a 7-inch charge. Awesome. Statistically, I make this 5. Cool. All right, let's CP it 6." And I look at him and say, I just lost. And he goes, no, you still got it. I said, "I guarantee you right now, I cannot catch up on score. And that right there is why. Because my list is not fast enough with a 5-inch move while also hiding in terrain to be defensive to make up that differential." So I lost by 2. It literally came down to a 4-up. He had Trajan on 1 wound. He fell back from 2 Blight Haulers, and I did cool. Cut them down. And I got a mortal wound on Trajan. Trajan was Emperor's Chosen and a 4-up field of pain. Passes it, and that's the game.
What a champion move, though. Cut them down on 2 models into something with a 4-up.
And I was like, this is it, baby. This is all I got. Cut him down. I looked it up. 1 CP engagement range. Cool. Roll 2 dice, get a 6. I'm like, all right, let's do this. 4-up or you lose the game. It is like a 7-point swing or something off of that.
That is winning.
Yeah.
Squeaky bum time right there, isn't it? That
Exactly.
guy's looking at like, oh man.
Problem is, that's how my list has been playing games. Is that here's this weird gimmick that if I pull it off, I win. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy to play. After that, I'm beating myself up pretty good on here because I have made a lot of mistakes in this, and I'm really not happy with the army I'm playing. Like I said, I'm playing a list that wasn't fully developed with that not having that 3rd defensive secondary, and that was starting to wear on me. It was also game 7 in 3 days. I decided at that point, I was sitting there, looked at the list, looked at, hey, I can either play one more round or I could drop, I could go decompress and finish my school work. I decided to do that. So I left the game there, had a couple people message me that, hey, everything okay? I was like, yeah, no, I'm bowing out on this because regardless of how I do in this next game, I know I'd have a good time, but I'm not going to have a good time, if that makes sense. It's going to be a slog to play through this last game. So I decided to drop, went and finished the final. So I ended up 3-5. I took a loss for the last one because that's how a drop works. You just take L's. So that's where we're at there. The Death Guard. What was that?
Did you then go and write your very good report on the wrong topic?
Yeah, I did that too.
Was that
I
one?
wrote a really good research paper for a report that I was supposed to do. And my instructor was like, this is a really good research paper. Too bad I asked for a report. I'm like, that's a good feeling. Something else in game 3 that hit me. And it's one of those things that after an event, at the time, I didn't think much of it, but it's stayed with me since then. And it's nothing on the guy. He didn't mean it in the way that he did. Or the way that I took it or have taken it and have really thought about it. And I know he didn't mean it this way. It's just, it stuck with me. When we were talking about after the game that I'd scooped and said, okay, we're good. We don't need to play this out. And he says, you know what? When I saw you deploy, I thought you were a really good player. And then I saw you play and you saw you make mistakes. And I was like, okay, I'll be fine. And I get it at the time. He was just trying to, he's trying to give a compliment, but that was so that has stuck with me on damn, that hurt.
That is a powerful backhand there.
That is a powerful backhand. And he was overall a nice guy. We didn't get asked at the time to be on the War Games live stream, which I was really looking forward to. I wanted to be on that for a while, and my opponent said no. He wasn't comfortable being on stream because he had just started playing competitive 40K. That, by the way, is the last bit. He'd played competitive 40K for about a year. I have been playing an event since 7th edition, so we're going on 3 editions now. That definitely 6th. I was playing in tournaments in 6th. I remember him saying that and just being like that took the wind out for a good couple of games. And he didn't mean it that way. I know he was trying to give me a compliment because he saw the secondary that I saw. He took the oh, you have to kill my most expensive unit. And I just like parked the Blight Lords in my deployment zone. I was like, all right, come get them. Like they're behind a wall. They're 1 inch away. You're going to have to make weird charges to get there. And it was just like, oh, that took it out. And that's kind of stuck with me. I've had a couple people at this point tell me that I make weird mistakes in games that'll lose stuff, and some of it's faction, some of it's me. What I learned at the event is I'm probably putting the Death Guard back on the shelf for a bit. I'm sure my wife's going to come in here and laugh at me and say, no, you're not. The next time you forget to paint something for an event, you're just going to bust them out again. That may be true. They will be a weapon of desperation. But I need to play something that's a little faster. I need to play something that has more aggression. Because I was playing really defensive and then trying to make 9-inch shards out of deep strike to hit objectives. That's not a sustainable way to play the game. So that's where we're at there. I've talking about American events on a travel podcast about everything except the United States. But I wanted to bring that up because that was this is it. After this, I'm not going to, with probably some exception, if I can make an LVO, I'll make an LVO. But that was my last big. An LVO is its own separate thing, and I don't even count that as a major US event because you're playing people from all over the world. So that was it. It was kind of a fizzle to go out on. It was a little disappointing. I was definitely disappointed in myself. I thought I could have played that better. I know I could have. I know I could have written a better list. But that's where we were. As I say this, I have Custodes Dreads on my assembly table with some Sagittarum, and I'll be moving probably to that for a bit, depending on again, with the move coming up. The Custodes army is the army that's going in my carry-on because it's easy to transport, and Knights are a little big to fit in an overhead. So I'll be playing Custodes for the foreseeable future while the rest of the army ships.
I'm going to give you a bad influence.
There you go.
Bad influence time, Alex. If you get a Blade Champ, you can deep strike your Achilles Threads, and if there's Solar Watch, you've got 7-inch, and you can have 2 of them with a rerollable charge in the same turn into the target the Blade Champ's in.
Go on. Keep going. That's
that's the combo, dude. One of them's got Eternal Penitence, so it rerolls charges. The other one you spend the CP on, you deep strike them. You make the Blade Champion advance him, charge himself up towards something that you want to hit with Spear Dreads. And the Spear Dreads teleported in, and you've got 2 7-inch rerollable charges. What could go wrong?
I don't know. The 7-inch rerollable charges are pretty hard to hit. I'm just saying.
But you got 2 of them. They work every time I've tried it. What could go wrong?
What works in New Zealand doesn't work across the rest of the world at Towse.
Listen, I said I was going to be a bad influence.
The dice roll different down over there in the Southern Hemisphere, so.
Yeah. But just to interrupt there, Pass, also appreciate your candid and openness there. Like, obviously being quite vulnerable there, talking about how you honestly felt you went at Dallas Open, and some very good self-reflection there. But honestly, I don't think you should beat yourself up too much. There was like a couple 2 or 3 point losses or very, very close games. Like, don't beat yourself too much. And you did. It sounds like you did actually much better than probably led on saying that you did terribly at. So please, pat yourself on the back, because you did. Obviously, Death Guard are quite slow and not seen as the best right now, but I think you did it quite well, and you knew the limitations, and you were able to reflect on them and see where you need to change things out. Also, I think it's also worth mentioning, obviously he talked about how you said you deployed very well, but then made some bad mistakes. That's a compliment. You deployed well, and that's something. There's always I know, like you said, you made mistakes, but those are things you can improve on. So you know where you made those mistakes. At least you got some fundamentals. You're not started. You shouldn't be starting from scratch, obviously. But what I'm trying to say is that there's good things about your game, Alex, and you're not lost for words. It's not everything's. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Basically, not everything's crap.
I think also it's important to going back to the expectations thing as well. When you go into an event, it's really important for people to remember, at an event, and tell yourself when you're setting your expectations. I guess to remember that how you go in this game of war dollies or toy soldiers, whatever you want to call it, isn't actually a reflection of you as a person, or anything like that. And also going off something that Nick Nanavati says about list writings is list is a snapshot in time. You've got to remember an event is the same thing, right? You've got to appreciate that you've had this big paper due, you've had you've got a life-changing move, which is going to be great for the podcast. Just so you know, which is great.
It's content. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
content.
That's right. But you've got to appreciate there's actually like a lot of like more subconscious stuff going on, and you've got to be kind to yourself when you go go into these kind of events, and making sure you're setting goals and appreciating, like, I don't have as much time to practice. I've got a lot of external stress. I've got to make sure, and then setting your goals around like what's actually going on in your life as well. It doesn't reflect on you having a bad tournament or a couple of bad tournaments, or having this like what can sometimes feel like this gray area of lists not going your way, and you never seem to hit that hit that like soft note that you want to hit. Like sometimes that isn't a reflection of where you're at as a player, just more a reflection of where you're at this moment in time. Do you know what I mean? So like you should never take that too hard.
Oh yeah, so one other thing I didn't mention in there, I was also working at the time that the event was going on. I was actually taking work phone calls in between rounds because we had some events going on at work that required immediate attention, which was amusing. That I'm like on the phone yelling about, and actually yelling because that's how frustrated I was getting with some of the stuff going on there. Not at the guy on the other end of the phone. I'm not that bad of an officer, but just like that's how frustrated I was getting with some of the things that were going on at work. And then I'd go back in and play another round. I've done that a couple times. I definitely took a call from my boss's boss at LVO in the middle of the event hall, which was incredibly amusing. But there was a lot going on there. And talking about Nanavati, I was actually in the class I was in. I took their beginner and advanced class for a point that you mentioned, that I don't have as much time to play or the ability to play as much as I would like. And I decided that, okay, well, if I can't play, I might as well take courses. I might as well study it. So I do I watch a lot of battle reports. I listen to a lot of review content of like, all right, this is what this thing does. This is how this works. So I try and keep up on game knowledge. So if I walk into most events or most games, I try to know my opponent's army as well as they do, if not a little less, so I can at least be like, that's what that does. And I can actually tell my opponent what their army does, which is a lot of fun. Definitely in the Tyranid game, I walked in, was like, this is what all of your abilities are and how they trigger. And he goes, you don't need me to explain this at all, do you? I go, nope, I've seen this before.
That can be great as an opponent too, by the way. Like when I was borrowing the Towse, the last event, and the last game, I get against the guy who plays Towse, and I'm like, yes, you know what the things do. And we just start playing the game. That's real nice.
Oh yeah, I had that with the Necron player. Like I know Necrons relatively well, and he knew Death Guard. So we're like, do we need to talk about our armies? Nope. All right, let's go. So that was a good time. The Custodes games were very similar, and then the Night game was actually like that too. Where it's like, all right, I know what your list does. But the classes, the beginning advanced courses, and it was a lot of like, all right, here's how you pick secondaries, which is something I'm getting a lot better at. But that course actually really helped. Where you go, okay, this is why you should be taking these secondaries, like beyond like, well, they're easier scored. No, you're taking this secondary because it stacks with this secondary, which stacks with this one. And this is what your plan is based on your army, how you're going to play the game anyway. So like Despoiled Ground for Death Guard, that actually works really well because it's a very slow army and you score all of it end of game. So a lot of times they were telling everyone that was the joke. They asked, okay, when they were explaining one of their demo games of Death Guard versus Blood Angels, they said, are there any Death Guard players here? Raise my hand and go, okay, I'm going to tell everyone else here to take Stranglehold in every game. For you, you're going to look at Despoiled Ground, look at the objectives, and think, can I survive to the end of the game to score this? And then you take Despoiled Ground. Otherwise, you take Stranglehold. But you'll also look at this stuff to see how the rest of your army plays. And this, not to get in too much of their classes, I can say, I've while not being the best tournament player, I've played in a lot of events, and I still found value in those. And I thought they were, it was like watching a coaching match that they do on their streams, but also getting to like live participation, like right there. They would like stop and be like, all right, what do we do? What's the next step? And people would give answers and they say, okay, let's walk through this decision. It's not the wrong one, but it's not necessarily the optimal one. And this is where you'll end up. And that was actually really cool to watch, to see players that play effectively professionally, how they go through the game. And they're like, yeah, you can make suboptimal decisions. You shouldn't. But if you do, this is how you recover. This is where you move from there. And this is how, like, what your opponent's going to try and do, which was very good. I really enjoyed those, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to sit in through those classes, which was a good time. And yeah, it's I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The baby and bathwater might go in a case in the closet for a little bit. I'm not sure how that analogy works anymore.
I think you're stretching this metaphor here, mate.
we are stretching this metaphor to its as breaking point. But some of it might be that, hey, it just might need to be a change of pace of like, all right, we're shifting from this now, and I'm going to play something that's that's a little faster, can be a little more aggressive. Also, I can play the good guys again. I've been playing the villains for the last like 2 years, and I've realized that's mentally taxing. I got to be the good guy every once in a while. So we'll switch to wonderful shiny boys who definitely haven't done anything wrong.
A change of pace from 5-inch move a turn to like more than that.
Oh god, yeah. When they demoed the dwarves and they were like, "Oh, they're 5-inch move," and everyone's like, "That's not that bad." I'm like, "Nope, that's terrible. Let me tell you right now, that is actually awful." Squat stat line 5 inches. If you think that's going to get you across the board, let the Death Guard player tell you, "No, you're not doing that. Like that's not good."
Yeah. So to I guess wrap things up. So you talked about, Alex, beforehand, something about cart girls at Dallas Open. Do you want to?
Oh god, yes. Let me. Oh man, I gotta find the.
So Texas likes drinking at events.
Texas likes drinking at events. Texas likes drinking at events a lot, and Texas is on the forefront of innovating how you drink at an event. Each time they're going to change how that's done. So at Dallas Open, it was at a hotel, and they had set some of the tables were a little like there was like 2 tables and then a row and then 2 more tables, and those rows were wide but pretty standard. Enough to get like 2 people through comfortably, or 1 beer cart. There were 2 or 3. I didn't inventory because I don't normally like to drink at events, so it holds no appeal for me. Of carts being pushed around by waitresses aggressively selling alcohol because you were playing at a Texas event, and damn it, you were going to drink whether you like it or not. So there were constant roving carts of alcohol, which for a lot of people there was great. One thing they did do that was really good is you could also buy lunch vouchers off the carts. So at the end of your round, you walked over and grabbed lunch because you'd already paid for it. And that right there, take note, is the best thing I have seen at a GT when it comes to concessions. Because
that's such a good idea.
Because I didn't, yeah, exactly. You just price everything the same. It was a buffet done by the hotel, expensive, but it meant that I finished my round, re-racked my travel board, walked over to food, handed them my ticket, and ate and walked back. I never had to worry about getting food. I know at LVO, I routinely just don't eat because that line is so long. This time, I got to have a meal between rounds. This was great.
Sorry, Alex.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I hear that can get you to the shadow round, but not be an undefeated orc player, not eating. So it's a good strategy.
That is just what Lucas does. Do not attempt to replicate that strategy. That's just how he runs.
Well, so thank you very much for Alex there for the recap of Dallas Open, and I'm glad. Obviously, despite some of the bad situations, I hope you got some good information out of it, and like moving forward now, you're able to develop and innovate and do some interesting things. And look, best of luck in your move to career, and obviously we'll be tracking progress and when you finally land in your new home destination. So with that, everyone, this is actually going to be a wrap for episode 6. So please, thank you for everyone that's supported the podcast so far. If you would like to join or participate more, please join the Patreon at patreon.com/bestintabletop, or join the YouTube members only area. So thanks to everyone. Enjoy, take care, and looking forward to talking to you next time.
See you later.
You.